Hey guys, welcome back. This is Snazzy, your all-time favorite. Today we are gonna see what if Goku was Cyborg. So let's move on to the video. Where am I? I asked. That was the first thing I said, but it wasn't the first thing I did. Before I'd even inquired about my location, I'd already found out what had happened to me. As soon as I'd wanted to know, the information had just popped into my head, like it had been locked in the back of my mind somewhere and then let out when needed. I'd been brought to this dimension by some mysterious being who had been working with a mad scientist called Drive. Jero. The brilliant and also insane man had spent years of his life turning people into what he called androids. Which, aside from being totally immortal, it was also wrong because many of his creations still had organic parts, and that meant that they were cyborgs, not just robots in human form. To my surprise, I too was now part machine, and even odder than that, my DNA had been modified. So I was part alien as well, mostly Saiyan, although I didn't have tail. Which was something to be happy about. No, not him. Some purple-haired guy shouted out in what sounded like panic, "He can't be here." I knew nothing about the young man who was currently very upset over seeing me. Which made me want to find out more about him. He seemed to be scared of me despite the fact that we had never met. I found that odd. "Who are you?" I asked him. It wasn't him who answered. "I am your creator, Drive." Jero needlessly reminded me, "And I gave you life." Well, he had not given me life, my parents had done that, and I hadn't been talking to him anyway. I knew exactly who he was, as I had loads of information about him going through my brain. If just a tenth of it was true, then Jero needed to die, as he was a total monster. I then said I don't really remember my old life. Well, that wasn't completely true. There were bits of pieces, and it all seemed to be as boring as fuck. Honestly, getting turned into a cyborg who also happened to have some DNA from a few different alien races was actually rather interesting when compared to what came before. Although I was pretty sure that I should be freaking out about the whole thing. The movements of the others then forced me to pay more attention to what was going on. I looked to see androids 17 and 18, who were both also actually cyborgs. I had loads of data on those two. I knew that either of them alone were no match for me, but their combined might could end my existence. With this in mind, I figured it would be a good idea to stay on their good sides. 17 was smiling about something, and I guessed his mirth was due to the fact that he held a deactivation controller in hand. Which was a pleasant thing, because the doctor, or someone else, could have easily switched us all off with that unimportant looking device. "Give that back?" Jero demanded. For some reason I didn't think that 17 was going to do that. "You mean this?" The dark-haired cyborg said with what passed for an innocent smile on his face. "I think I'll hold on to it." The cyborg then started to squeeze, exerting great amounts of pressure. The metal and plastic that made up the device shattered. Destroying the sturdy remote had been no trouble for 17 than crushing a chicken egg. "No!" the doctor exclaimed. Jero lunged towards 17, desperate to save his precious controller, but it was too little, too late. "Do you have any idea how long it took for me to create that?" Jero asked of the still smiling 17, "And how long it will take me to build a replacement?" I assumed that those two questions didn't require an answer from me, so I kept my mouth shut. Plus, I still trying to process the news that I was now a fusion of man, machine and alien. "Not really, no," 17 replied with a shrug. The two androids then turned their attention to me. They didn't seem at all worried about anyone else. "Hey buddy," 17 greeted in a friendly way. "Let me guess, you re one of Dr. Jero's newer models." I had no idea what to say to them, as while I knew more than a little about them, they were in truth strangers to me. "Not much for words, are you?" 17 then commented. Normally I could be chatty, however I was still rather confused. There were some people here staring at us, and two-part machines acting as if they didn't have a care in the world. However, I was pretty sure that the folks currently staring at us wanted to harm us. "Let me try," 17 said 18. She was 17's twin sister, and she was kinda cute. Hey 21, she greeted. I called to help check her out. Blondes were normally trouble in my experience, although not as bad as redheads, yet her confidence combined with her fit body made her attractive. He skinned a cute 18 then said. I just thought that about her. That was weird, and also I never thought of myself as cute. Rugged in a handsome way perhaps, but never cute, not since I was a kid. Thank you, I told her. It had seemed polite to reply to the compliment. So you can speak 18 then said, sounding overjoyed. I was beginning to think drive. Jero forgot to give you a voice box. Actually my voice box was only partly a machine. My internal files told me that the tech used to make me a cyborg was extremely advanced, and therefore nearly all of me could pass for organic. But I would have problems boarding a plane as I set off metal detectors. However, since I could fly faster than sound, that wasn't really an issue. 21. Jero then ordered kill the allies of Son Goku. Now, once he had said that, name some information about this Son Goku, which included his known associates, was mine to access. In theory I could defeat this Goku and any of his friends, but I had no real desire to. I was far more interested in finding out what my new body could do. Also, I was annoyed with the evil doctor because 21 was not my name, it was the physical age of this body for some reason, but that was the only connection I had to that number. That is not my name, I stated. My real name, the one my mother had chosen for me, was not something I'd forgotten, but according to my files my other creator had a different title in mind for me. You are Android 21. Jero shouted, now perform the task you were created for. Since I still had human free will, I could choose not to obey orders. My name is Gothic, I told the evil doctor, and I am not an android. I was a cyborg. I was not a pure machine. I was still a person. My body just happened to have a high metal content. You dare disobey me, Jero said with anger in his voice. Perform your function and dispose of them immediately. I had no purpose. My programming gave me options, but there was nothing in my head that compelled me to do anything. And why should I listen to you? I asked the madman, what's in it for me? I had a whole new life now, so if was willing to pay, then maybe I'd kill people. The idea of murdering somebody didn't bother me much anymore. On the other hand, neither did I have any real desire to end lives. So I would need something to motivate me. What? Jero asked back. Before the doctor could say anything else, an arm erupted out his chest. It was somewhat like the scene out of Alien movie. I was only slightly less surprised than Jero to find out that 17 had decided to go ahead and destroy our creator. How dare you? The insane genius said with his dying breaths, I created you. I wondered if his partner in mad science would have taken offense to that had he been here to hear those words spoke. You're not giving the orders anymore, 17 informed Jero. Then the dark-haired cyborg then turned to me. You can kill him if you want to, 21 he offered. I am thinking that he screwed you up the worst. I gave the cyborg a glare. My name is Gothic, I told him. Also, I was called Android X in some of my files. I had no idea why. Sorry, Gothic 17 corrected himself. Do you want to kill him? I mulled it over. You know what, I think I just might take you up on that kind offer, I told 17. The mad science guy had been abducting people, and while some of them had become powerful beings, the vast majority had died in many different and nasty ways. All because Jero, who was still hanging on to life, had wanted revenge on this Son Goku fellow. Who hadn't he done anything wrong as far my files told me. So I then decided to kill the doctor, and without warning I lunged forward, and soon I had Jero's throat in my grasp. Next I slammed the evil D into the metal floor of the lab hard enough to dash the man's brains out, which he still had in a case of some sort under a hat. The purple-haired guy looked about ready to snap at this point, and I had no idea why. He was taking this all very personally, however I had no idea who he was because he wasn't in any of my files. I then glanced over my shoulder. I saw that 17 and 18 were investigating another of those coffin things that we had been stored in. This one bore the number 16 and again some files popped into my head. 16 was a real android, not a cyborg like 17, 18 and myself. Let us open it, 17 decided. I was good with that. No one, machine or not, should remain sealed away in a pod. Vine be me, 18 said as she reached for the cat that would open the pod's door. Let's see what else Jero made. I too wanted to see as my files didn't he tell me what 16 looked like. Guys. One of the onlookers, Krillin my files had told me, was now saying to the others, shouldn't we do something? For some reason they were still just standing around, and this gave me ample time to study them. They were Vegeta, Tien, Piccolo, and Krillin. But still I had no idea who the purple-haired guy was. The only thing I knew about him was that he didn't like me. Actually I knew two things about him. The second was that I would sometime soon steal his cool-looking sword. Now there are 4 androids. Sword guy shouted in rage, no, 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 this really can't be happening. Then some sort of golden energy enveloped the very upward guy and he used his superpowers to trigger a massive explosion. Jero's lab was blown to pieces, however no one hurt, even our clothes remained more or less intact. Also I oddly found myself floating in the air. 18, are you going to open it or not? 17 complained. Neither of them seemed to even care that someone had just tried to kill us. Fine. She replied with a huff, don't be such an impatient brat. The blonde cyborg threw the pod to the ground. The occupant within did not react in any way. At least not until 18 pressed a button on the side of the pod. The lid slowly opened, but she had no patience for that, so she forced it open. Father! I heard the purple-haired guy cry out, what are you doing? We have to retreat. That would be wise of them, as the red-headed android was now waking up or logging on or whatever. Stay out of this, Trunks. The prince of a dead race replied, this is my fight. Given that Saiyan had tried to destroy this version of Earth, I had no problem ending him as well. He was more a bad guy than even Jero, but first I wanted a weapon. Trunks, I am taking your sword, I told the purple-haired guy, it can be over your dead body. The prince did not like me paying attention to someone else and he cut me off. Nice try, android. Vegeta said, but you are going to fight me, not the boy, and I am going to crush you. Nothing can stand against the might of a Super Saiyan. He was so wrong about that. Okay, if you want to die then come at me, bro, I replied, just don't say I didn't warn you. Without hesitation Vegeta launched himself right at me. As he did that he became all golden too. Only he was still slower than me and I was easily able to dodge his attack. Stop dancing and face me, coward. The Prince of Nothing ordered. I was processing everything with frightening speed. Every punch, every kick, and every energy blast I was able to dodge in such a way as to conserve my own power while Vegeta was tiring himself out. When the alien warrior spent a moment ranting at me, I took the opportunity to hit the Prince of all two Saiyans very hard in the face with one hand, and then I used my other fist to hurt Vegeta's stomach. The attack brought the elite fighter to his knees, and for some reason this stopped his hair being golden. Father! Trunks called out. I had a moment to think that Vegeta couldn't be old enough to have a fully grown son, only I never got a chance to inquire about that subject as now all the fighters were rushing at me. The next few seconds were a blur, and a few seconds after everyone who was fully organic was on the ground. It had been all too easy. Up within the air above a dual carriageway, Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans, and Gothic, also known as Android 21, battled. The blows they traded ought to shatter concrete partitions without problems, and the power blasts they threw at every different were capable of developing craters in the floor. Under them, 3 pairs of eyes tracked the combat between the one's effective beings. Both of the combatants above were moving at the velocity of sound, yet 16, 17 and 18 had no problem retaining up with the intense movement that became occurring inside the sky. You understand that Vegeta truly does not like that Android 17 stated as he watched the Saiyan attempt to damage 21. How long have they been at it? The cyborg knew very well how long the conflict were taking place as he had an inner clock. He turned into just making communicate. About 20 minutes Android 18, his dual sister, answered, however it feels like at the least an hour. She reached out and tucked a strand of her hair in the back of her ear before saying something else. I do not get why this is taking goodbye. She then stated, all of us recognize that 21 can effortlessly kill him. He have to just get this over with. 17 smirked as he keeps to look at the fight above. He understood exactly why his fellow cyborg became drawing matters out. Surely there had been reasons. The first become due to the fact Android X, as he was additionally recognized, wanted to find out exactly what he became able to doing. The opposite cause was that 21 wanted to harm the prince.
There may be no fun in just killing him, the male duel defined, besides giving Vegeta a threat to trust that he can win and then taking that hope away will hurt him more than anything X may want to do to his body. 16 did not care at all, but 18 did as she became bored.
Nonetheless, she alternatively liked 21, so she would not intrude, at least now not, but okay, I will provide him some more time, she determined, but if this fight would not stop quickly I will cease it. 17 felt a relax run down his spine. 21 turned into the superior version, but 18 changed into a girl, and consequently she changed into tons scarier than any male cyborg could ever desire to be. What he is doing now? 18 requested. 17 targeted his vision and saw that Gothic now had become surrounded by way of an air of secrecy, the color of blood. Howdy, 16 the male cyborg requested the purple-headed gadget. Do you have any idea how 21 did that? In reality 16 did. Aside from being programmed with excellent preventing talents, Android X has the capacity to copy all recognized key strategies the android defined. Currently he has the usage of the Kaioken. Both of the cyborgs had been stressed. Kaio what? They requested. 16 defined. It is a combating method that multiplies the electricity level of the user, permitting them to inflict critical damage upon combatants who are usually notably stronger than them, the android stated, even as inside the kingdom. The user's charisma becomes red in shade. That greatly surprised both 17 and 18, as at the same time as that they had recognized that Gothic already handed them, however that they had additionally known that their combined strength could be sufficient to spoil Android 21. Now things have been different. Regardless of the useful resource of 16, they want to be able to prevent 21 if he turned on them. Let us no longer piss him off ever, 18 cautioned. 17 nodded his settlement and then he returned to looking the conflict. By the appears of factors, the Prince of all Saiyans turned into approximately 2 die. Line. Namage, while I had no numbers on a display to test, I did recognize that I were combating the Prince of Nothing for greater than a quarter of an hour, but we persisted to duke it out.
I had some form of inner clock that allowed me recognize how a great deal time had passed, and additionally I knew that I nevertheless had sufficient strength to keep going.
Ordinarily this become due to the fact Vegeta turned into the only placing all the attempt into the combat. He made me seem like I wasn't even attempting. All I had to do become both evade or block each punch and kick. As for the power blasts, they were a little more difficult to deal with. Up to now I would prevented or deflected they all, and that changed into making a large mess of the region, as Vegeta didn't seem to care about collateral harm. More than as soon as he had attempted to blast me out of the sky, handiest to grow to be destroying some terrible sods down on the limited access highway. Hopefully someone might come alongside and near the road. My no longer death seemed to make the royal alien even greater annoyed. Now it turned into like I was combating a 5-12 months vintage with the powers of a god. He'd have a hissy match, and other human beings might suffer for it. Then he might rant some extra. Stand nonetheless and face me, you coward. Vegeta ordered. I am going to show you into spare elements, after which sell you for scrap steel. The unmarried biggest motive why this fight had lasted this long was that the prince spent a variety of time insulting me, and additionally ranting approximately what a remarkable fighter he turned into. In spite of the truth that he had no evidence by any means to help this claim. And the other cause was that I badly desired to discover what I ought to do. I didn't recognize what my limits had been, and this became a terrific manner to find out my new limits. But the fight was unexpectedly getting dull. Due to the fact that I now wanted to stop matters, I waited till Prince of Nothing and no person attacked me as I intended to disable him. I without problem stuck the fist he deliberate to hit me the face with. I am sorry I cannot pay attention you over how much you suck. I instructed the fighter care to mention that once more. Vegeta tousled at me even as suffering to lose his hand from my grip, and I'd have paid extra attention to him. However, new information changed into flooding into my mind. Something called the Kaioken was to be had to me. Okay, I haven't any idea what that is, I said to myself. The explanation was now not helpful. So I decided the exceptional path of action became to attempt out this Kaioken. Warning: this mode cannot be sustained over long durations. I found the voice in my head to be extraordinary freaky given that it gave the impression of Jero, but I nonetheless heeded the words. Kaioken. I heard myself shout.
While I couldn't see myself, I was able to experience the modifications this technique delivered about. My strength had doubled, and it definitely startled Vegeta.
Oh no, no longer this again. He known as out. It also surprised me due to the fact I so without problems dislocated the wrist in my grip. While I may want to have done that before, it might have taken some effort, now it changed into mere baby-ass play. Vegeta screamed out in ache as I then broke every bone in right hand. The cries of pain and the noise the breaking bones made came together as such sweet track. Oh, what is the problem, Vegeta? I taunted. Did we shake arms too difficult? A second later I ended up ducking under a leg swipe even as nonetheless inside the air. The alien warrior changed into amazingly flexible. Had he been woman and a long way less traumatic, I would have enjoyed seeing what those legs may want to do. I reached out and grabbed the limb that had nearly hit me, and doing that definitely restricted the prince motion-wise.
This has been fun, Your Highness, I stated, but all a laugh things should come to an cease.
My next motion changed into two spin, after which throw the fast alien combat to the floor. I did it so hard that there appeared to be a short earthquake upon impact. Several cars on the toll road below crashed, and that I winced as I might had no choice to harm absolutely everyone else. Now not unless I had to. Seconds after the maximum recent multi-car pileup, Vegeta emerged from the crater I'd made just by means of throwing him into the floor. With my superior eyes I was capable of see all of the bruises and cuts he had. Also I ought to see that his blonde hair had reverted lower back to regular. I failed to understand if it became pride or simply undeniable stubbornness that allowed the Prince of Nothing to preserve on combating. However, it did galvanize me. So rather than blast the fighter earlier than he could even arise, I determined let him return to what I guessed to be his high-quality Saiyan shape. Also I hoped that proper now I did not have wavy pink hair like he had wavy gold hair that matched the shade of his air of secrecy, as that could appear and so stupid. The alien warrior became about as subtle as rampaging rhino, so I used to be effortlessly capable of assume his subsequent assault. I countered the move and sent the Saiyan crashing back down into the crater that I had created earlier. Then, face down with any other man beating your ass, I stated. The fast alien fighter, is it Friday night already, Vegeta? As opposed to answer me my question, the fool with the silly hair fired a large energy blast at me. However, I simply batted it apart. Nicely, that changed into rude, I commented. I felt a strong choice to damage the prince then. My Kaioken mode, not most effective, accelerated my strength folded, additionally made me sense extra competitive.
However, that turned into great with me as combating the prince had stopped being exciting, and considering the fact that he certainly desired to damage me, I had no reason to spare his existence. By the time Vegeta had recovered sufficient to move slowly out of the crater, I was equipped to end him.
You will have to try plenty more difficult than that in case you suppose you could beat me, android. Vegeta boldly stated, for I am the prince of all Saiyans. That made me smirk. So you're the ruler of a lifeless race and a blown-up planet, I answered, huge whoop.
Somewhere in the again of my head there has been data that Drive Jero, or perhaps his accomplice, had placed there, and aside from giving the data had to assault human beings, it informed me the way to do many exciting matters. Together with some signature movements of different warring parties. Massive bang assault. I shouted. I needed to admit that it became quite tremendous if you want to do stuff like that.
Line ruin, properly Vegeta is lifeless. I informed 16, 17 and 18 as I landed in front of them. I killed him along with his very own completing move. I so loved the irony of that. Vegeta isn't he always useless. 16 then instructed me one and all his comrades became able to store him. This made me very sad. Ah crap baskets, I moaned, now I should fight him once more. It did not be everywhere near as I laughed the second time. I might should snap his neck or something as nothing else would shut the fellow up. How do you already know he survived? 18 then requested of 16. His answer wasn't too lengthy in coming. I will nonetheless stumble on his electricity stage. The android defined if he were terminated then I'd no longer be able to do this. Nicely, that made sense. Even though what wasn't he so reasonable become why I wasn't he able to experience him. It seemed like a flaw to me. Further down being of your assault I'd sensed any other excessive electricity level close by. The Crimson Head then informed us. Consequently I concluded that Vegeta changed into stored with the aid of one among his friends. Which supposed that I'd have to kill a few other people as well. Do not worry about it, Batak assured 18. As soon as we kill Goku we will take his buddies out whilst ever we want. That changed into when I sensed something. It became a completely human feeling that tingle inside the spine. Or we could just kill them now, 17 advised. I became to look the rest of Goku as friend and that I questioned what they were doing for the half of an hour I might been messing about with Vegeta and talking with the and 16. Then I puzzled how on earth the prince changed into even status proper now. He'd been nearly dead when remaining I saw him and now he seemed a whole lot higher. Oh come on, I need to go garment shopping, I don't need to kill Son Goku searching like this. 18 become now pronouncing can we genuinely ought to combat those men right now.
Given that we had been nevertheless expecting a few shipping to make its way down this avenue, which wasn't the same one which I would destroyed, we couldn't have gone everywhere.
Properly we may want to have, however 17 truly desired to pressure and for some purpose we have been indulging him. Hi, look, a truck. 17 called out. Using that might be very cool, assuming one folks even knew the way to pressure. However there has been one small problem. We want something with 4 seats. I pointed out. Motive, you realize there may be 4 people.
17 deflated a touch upon listening to that, however now not for long as the truck driver lost his manipulate of his car, most possibly because he'd attempted to avoid walking a person over, and seconds later the truck changed into going off the threshold.
It even exploded for a few. Motive. Let us just maintain a watch for a car. I then recommended a now not exploding model. Hopefully one could be along faster as opposed to later. I was itching to get moving. You dare forget about me? The Prince of a blown-up international abruptly shouted. Making Vegeta mad changed into a lot amusing. It need to be unlawful, and as for the relaxation of them they simply didn't seem to comprehend how meaningless they had been when compared to beings of such power. Had I been alone I'd have concerned, but we have been rarely outnumbered. Oh I forgot, you nevertheless around, I stated in a bored tone of voice. What do you need? Can't you spot have been busy expecting a car to force through, so we will scarce borrow it.
Plus we without a doubt did want to head purchasing for new outfits.
Mine changed into getting broken, and I really preferred to be in all black. My purple ribbon blouse simply didn't match me. You are now not going anywhere, the alien warrior declared. That turned into when I became my back on him. This absolutely aggravated him. I am able to no longer be omitted android. Vegeta yellow short alien began to hurl beams of power at me. However I skillfully prevented each blast. It changed into nearly too easy. Your purpose is terrible, I mocked. That did not stop him from trying to blast me once more. However I couldn't be afflicted to hold dodging, so I began slapping away the few electricity blasts and my manner that sincerely had a hazard of hitting me.
I didn't recognize how I may want to do one of these component, however it became incredible cool, or at the least it changed into till I overlooked a blast and were given hit.
It clearly hurt, at the least a little. Okay, I am going to begin hitting you currently, I instructed the prince, and that I do not know if I can ever be able to prevent. That became when 17 addressed the others, and if all and sundry gets in his way I will make you remorse it, they promised. Before any of Goku's friends ought to say whatever, I used to be standing in front of Vegeta, and soon the prince became no longer capable of live on. His fort. My kick to his gut badly winded him, and the punches I might landed on other components of his body didn't do him any favors. I would have completed him off right there after which, but the pink-haired man decided that he desired a flip. This did not training session properly for him, as I was eventually able to take his sword. As for the rest of the warring parties, they did not fare a great deal higher, both as 17 and 18 kicked their asses in short order. As a good deal as we would really like to stay and fight you men a few more, I told the warriors we do have locations to be. I in reality did need a few new garments, and now that I had a sword, so I needed to get myself a pleasant scabbard to with it. Come on 17, 21, 18 entreated, we are leaving. We'll discover a car later. I took off into the air and observed the others as we headed to in whichever it turned into we were going. Much to 18's ire, 17 had decided to steal a pink delivery van. Clearly he was insane, but at least now we were on the move. In fact, we were currently cruising down the highway at what I considered to be a slow speed. However, since we could all fly faster than sound, driving at any speed was rather pointless. Our lack of speed meant that we were now battling our most fearsome foe ever, boredom.
16 refused to speak to anyone unless he had something meaningful to say, which he didn't right now, and as 17 was driving, which left 18 with only me talk to.
However, I was busy reviewing information and thinking about my new life. I had a computer inside my head, and while it wasn't a part of my brain, it was connected to it, so when I desired information it would give it to me. I was learning a lot about this world, but mostly that just led to me not understanding how any of it worked. Another thing I was thinking about was Vegeta.
Right from the start, the Saiyan Prince simply refused to leave me in peace, and to be fair, I wanted to kill him too, but only because he hated me for some reason.
Something about that guy made me want to rip his head off. Sadly, the remaining fighters had prevented it from happening, and while they were not but powerless children when compared to us, they'd been able to stop me from killing the prince. Not that they'd been able to do much else, as we'd beaten them all in short order. Only the bald-headed one had been left unharmed because he'd just stood there and done nothing. Goku's friends seemed to spend quite a lot of time just standing around while other people did things. Now we're off in search of what 17 called fun. And by fun, that meant finding and killing Goku.
Well, we did get around to it, we weren't in any rush and we did need new outfits.
So 18 said as she began sidling over to me, you like being called Gothic, right? I hadn't picked the name, but it was better than being called 21 or X, those were stupid names. Yeah, was my simple reply. My response wasn't enough for her, so she pushed herself a little closer and she angled herself in such a way that I was able to check out her assets. They weren't that big, but they looked to be a decent handful at least, and I was still anatomical correct, so if she carried on doing things, then she would get another. Her twin brother also noticed this and decided to comment. Yo sis, he said while keeping his eyes on the road, if you're going to do stuff like that, wait until I am not around, alright? Oddly 16 decided to chime in at this point. Android 17 was programmed to find Android 21 attractive, he informed us. I do not know why. I wanted to know why he knew that at all. So Jero was playing matchmaker. 17 said, I beat the old perv, wanted to watch you two get it on. If this was true, then it made me extra that glad I killed him. Well, it's not like I have a lot of options, pointed out 18. I know 3 guys who can keep up with me, and one of them is my brother. As for the other, I am not sure even if notices that I am a woman. So yeah, I am not exactly spoiled for choice. She was very well handling the fact that she was programmed to think I was sexy. Then again, compared to being turned into a cyborg, I figured that it wasn't really a big deal. Do you remember anything? 18 then asked about your life before. I honestly couldn't care less about my life before now, as I was far more interested in figuring out what I was going to with my present, but 18 was eager to learn more about me because if nothing else she really didn't have anything better to do. So I took a moment to organize my thoughts. Are you going to talk to me? She asked before I could start chatting, or do I have to kiss you? Somehow she made that sound like a threat. Having fun back there, Gothic? 17 inquired. I got the feeling that he knew exactly what 18 was thinking and that he was amused. Oh, shut up, I ordered. 17 did as he was told, but only because his sister was glaring daggers at him. I don't think we should start in making out just because some mad scientist decided to make you find me attractive, I said to 18. Although Jero couldn't have programmed 18 that way. He was too consumed by revenge to care about such things, so his partner must have done it. The blonde-haired cyborg, however, did care about such things. She kissed me, and not gently. Will you please stop doing that? I requested. I am trying to think. That made her smile. What don't you like kissing girls? She asked. My answer could have been better thought out. Of course I do. I said, wanting to make it clear I was heterosexual, but I barely know you, and we have. More kissing followed. Thankfully it didn't last too long. Your hesitation is understandable, 2116 said suddenly. You were activated before your programming was completed. That I wanted to hear about. What do you mean, big guy? Asked 17 from the driver's seat. Before 16 could reply, 18 also spoke. Did you say something, 16? She inquired. I wasn't paying attention. Clearly she had decided to devote this time to do something with her mouth that didn't involve talking. Android 21 was brought online before his programming was completed. The giant robot explained to the driver this is why he does not return 18's affection. Now I wanted to go back in time and kill Jero again. Sadly no one I knew had a time machine, and I was just going to find one lying around. So how do we fix that? 18 asked. I seemed fine to me. I did not want to change any further. He is not yet complete, the true android said, but he will grow in time. I figured I had some sort of machine inside me that allowed me to grow stronger by copying other people. Maybe there was more to it. What does that mean? 18 asked next. I too wanted more information. Drive. Zero intended Android 21 to kill Son Goku by learning all his attacks. 16 told us not by battling him directly, but having Android 21 observe other battles so he could learn from them. Which explained why I could do the whole red aura superpower thing. It must be my machine side's way of trying to mimic the golden aura thing. Well, there is no need to worry about that, I said to the group. I am perfectly capable of kicking ass as I am. Plus I now had a cool new sword and I wanted to stab someone with it. Like Vegeta. Hold on, which way is Goku? 18 then wondered. 17 raised his shoulders in a helpless shrug. Which was kinda worrying as he was the driver. Your guess is as good as mine, he replied. I didn't even know where on earth we were. North 16 told us.
I didn't have a clue how he knew that, and I didn't bother asking as I figured that he would not answer.
If you say so, said 17 North, it is. We didn't get very far as the police wanted us to pull over. Line break. After the hover car parked behind the van, two people who I guessed were police officers stepped out of their flying cruiser and walked towards us. 16 lingered behind because as ever he didn't seem to care. Ugh, 18 groaned. I can't believe you pulled over. Well, it was what you were supposed to do. No, shut up, this is going to be great, 17 whispered. While I could shoot energy blasts, I was very tempted to steal some guns. I seemed to have developed some sort of fetish for weapons. I so wanted to get a home somewhere and then install an armory. This vehicle has been reported as stolen, one of the officers told us.
Since I helped to steal it, I knew this to be true, and when 17 admitted our crime, the cops cuffed each of us.
You are all under arrest for breaking the law. I was pretty sure that he was supposed to read us our rights, and that he wasn't supposed to arrest people who hadn't broken the law. Sir, I have checked the vehicle and I have identified another male. The other cop reported before addressing 16. Please exit the vehicle. As 16 steps out of the van, the junior officer had to make a comment. He asked big fella. The android didn't even react to the fact that the rest of us were now wearing handcuffs. You cannot sit in the back, 16 declared in flat tone of voice, that is where 21 and I sit. I didn't mind him calling me Android 21 as he was a machine and therefore he was more limited in his speech. Just cuff him, the older cop ordered.
The younger cop immediately followed that order and he arrested Android 16, but much to his surprise, the cuffs easily break apart as a result of Big Bot's tremendous strength.
Sir, do we have any bigger and much stronger cuffs? The junior officer asked his superior. Even the kind of chains that were attached to the anchor of a ship couldn't have held us. Yeah, they re in the car. The older officer said.
That was when both the law enforcer got an even bigger surprise. Their car was suddenly, and rather easily, lifted by a smirking Android 18, who went on to flung it against the nearest rock formation.
Which of course destroyed their transportation. Alright, I take it back, the blonde said. That was fun. That was when 17 and I broke our cuffs, and the two cops did the only smart they could. They ran away. Not for me, it wasn't. I complained I wanted to get some guns. I had no idea if you could just buy the things in a store in this world. But at least it was something to look into. You got to beat up that Vegeta guy twice. Was 18's response. Wasn't that enough fun for you? It had been enjoyable. At least at the start. Yeah, you rewrite it was. I said he made all kinds of funny noises.
Plus the guy had been a bully, and it had felt so good not only to be able to stand up to his type, but also to make him the victim.
You know, we never got to finish our makeout session. 18 then reminded me want to keep going. As we got back into the truck and I pondered the mortality of her offer. Since 18 was programmed to find me attractive, then it would be wrong to take advantage of her as she didn't control her feelings. On the other hand, it wasn't as if she could ever stop following her programming, at least not without some major help. Also, I did like kissing girls. What the hell, I am not a robot, I said. I was about to start making out with 18 when 16 spoke. Correct, he said, you are not a robot. You are a cyborg. I sighed. Maybe we should wait until we're alone, I suggested to the blonde. Given that her brother was in the van and the fact that 16 was staring at us, this seemed wise. Line break. After a long and somewhat interesting journey, at least at times, we had finally reached a clothes store. One that thankfully sold clothes for men and women. Much to the relief of 18, as her clothes were falling apart. Not that I had minded.
The good news was that I got to see her in a few outfits that showed off a little too much skin.
The bad news was that a woman was shopping, so every second felt like hours. She was spending so much time trying and failing to find the right outfit to wear. In the end, 17 and I decided to sit down while 18 was trying out an outfit she found that might meet her high standards. I looked at the clock and was surprised that only half an hour had passed, and that included the time I'd done my shopping. I was now in all black and I even had a cool new jacket. What was even better than that was the fact that I hadn't paid for any of it. The people who had been staffing the shop had run for the hills. You know what I always wanted to do? Said 17 after a while. Be a park ranger. I wasn't the outdoors type, but I could see the appeal for someone who liked trees and such. What is stopping you? I asked. Once we kill that Goku guy, you can do whatever you want. Granted, there were a few people out there who could at least get in our way, but really they were no threat. Nothing, I guess, replied 17 before asking me something. What about you? What are you going to do with your life now that you're not stuck inside some pod? That was a good question. I don't know, was my honest reply. The problem with being able to do anything was that you had too many options. It was hard to pick just one thing. I will become emperor of the earth, I joked. Although now that I said it, the idea wasn't as laughable as it might sound. I could destroy entire cities if I wished to, so it would be a simple matter to demand that the nations of this world to surrender to me or to be destroyed one city at a time. This is the only outfit in this store that I like, 18 said when she finally got out of the dressing room. At least it is something I can fight in. She looked cute, and if she'd asked my opinion I would have admitted it. Granted, the outfit made her look like she was off to the rodeo, but she was able to pull it off. Whatever you say, 18 replied. 17 Let us just get out of here and do something else. Us guys aren't big fans of shopping. 18 cocked an eyebrow at us. What makes you think that I forgot about your clothes? She asked. You two need fashion help. Since I'd already changed, I was now badly hoping for something to come along and draw the blonde's attention away from my style of dress. That was when a nearby wall collapsed, and it wasn't until the dust started to settle that I found that we under attack by what I guessed to be a SWAT team of some sort. They had blown their way in here, and now they had a bunch of guns pointed at us. So someone did call the police. I realized that the cops we met earlier had called for a lot of backup. Hey 18, 2117 said, do you mind if I take this, guys? Given that I'd gotten to fight the Prince of Bugger, all this was fine with me, so I nodded at him. Knock yourself out. 18 answered, I just got this new outfit I don't want I filled with bullet holes. We'll be outside with 16. Neither did I want my new clothes to get ruined, so I sped away, and I missed seeing what 17 did to the armed police officers. However, judging by the screams, it wasn't something pleasant. Hey, look, 17 called out. A house. Indeed, it was a house, and it was in the middle of some woods for some reason. Goku had friends, thus he didn't strike me as the hermit type. My only theory was that he lived out here in order to be far away from his legions of adoring fans. Is this the place, 16? 17 then inquired of the android. Hopefully we had found the right place, as taking that van off-road had not been a fun thing. I couldn't suffer from motion sickness anymore, and I had no stomach, so I wasn't able to vomit. Yet I had still found it very unpleasant. Yes, the hulking android answered from the back of the van. This is Goku's place of residence. I muttered a short thanks to whatever deity there was for cyborgs that we finally gotten here. Not that other parts of the trip hadn't been fun, but I decided to go for with 18, and that required some time alone. Which weren't going to get until this mission was over. Okay then, everybody out, I said. Our little group didn't have a leader, but no one seemed to mind me taking charge when I wanted to. I was the most powerful in the team, so it kinda made sense for to be in command.
We all climbed out of the van, and I was grateful for the chance to stretch my legs after spending so much time sitting down.
Apparently I was still organic enough to get muscle cramps. Come on, there's no way this is his place, 18 was now saying. I mean, look at it. Goku's house wasn't much to look at. It was more of a hut than anything else. But it was a peaceful place, so I could see the attraction in living in these parts if a person was into that sort of thing. However, what really mattered was that smoke could be seen rising from the chimney. This suggested that either someone was home or that they had been here recently and therefore might return soon, as it was unwise to leave a fire unattended. Also, it could mean that Goku had left in a hurry, as wasn't he coming back. So now I was thinking that maybe it wasn't that important after all. Son Goku is not here. 16s announced. I cannot sense him. Since I was in no rush to kill anyone, I didn't mind hearing this news. I just hoped that we wouldn't leave too soon. I really didn't want to get back in the van. What do you mean he's not here? 17 asked of 16. You said he was here. We followed your directions. Well, being told to go north hadn't been much help, but we had gotten here and 16 was in no way responsible for any delays. He was here, the android explained to us, very recently. However, he has now changed location. He is heading east. Which meant if we hadn't stopped off at the bar, then we would have caught up with him. Still, I didn't regret stopping for a drink, as it had been interesting to discover that while I couldn't eat, I could at least get a nice buzz going from booze. We should leave now, 16 suddenly said. It is no longer safe here. Unless someone had fired a nuke at us, there was nothing to worry about. So far, no one we'd come up against had been anything more than a passing amusement. Run away if you want, 17 replied with a snort, but I am not leaving until I know for sure that Goku isn't here. It would be embarrassing to later find out that he'd been in bed taking a nap, and that we could have easily killed him in his sleep. I advise escape. 16 urged. This power level heading towards us is much stronger than yours. 17. Hearing that made me want to ask a question. How does compare to me? I inquired. The android took a moment to answer. 17 and 18 are in great danger was all he said. He seemed very certain considering that he hadn't even seen the supposed danger yet. Still I wasn't worried. After all I defeated Vegeta with ease and that meant we had only Goku to be concerned about. Perhaps I was overconfident but given what we cyborgs could do I had every right to be. However there was a voice, this one my own, in the back of my head that was warning me all about being overconfident.
Relax 16, I said to the red-headed robot. If anyone does bother us then we'll face them together, and if we are being hunted then there's not sense running because whatever it will just keep chasing us.
Better to face it here than to be taken by surprise later on. I couldn't tell if 16 found my words to be reasonable or not as he had now stopped talking. So I figured that I'd let 17 look around while I hung out with 18. When I got inside I figured that if she did want to start something romantic with me then she was playing it cool, as she seemed to be far more interested in acquiring new clothes than in paying attention to me. Within minutes of getting here she'd already discarded her cowgirl outfit in favor of a new ensemble. She now wore a black vest with white undershirt, blue jeans, black gloves, and matching shoes. She had also looted what I assumed to be the jewelry box of Goku's wife, as she also now had some bling to wear. Whoever owned these clothes needs to have their eyes adjusted, she said. 18 had either been speaking to her reflection or to me. I think I like the cowgirl stuff better, I told her, but those jeans do show off your butt. Which is of the good. The outfit didn't seem to belong with the what else was the wardrobe, so I assumed that 18 had put it together from odd bits of clothing she found in drawers and such. Well, you don't look so bad yourself, she said. I was filling out my own outfit in a way that didn't require any excess eating. I wasn't as bulky as some of the fighters I'd seen, but I now had real muscles and they suited me. Flattery will get you everywhere, I replied. 18 then moved towards me and we started kissing. Only then we had to stop as a chill wind seemed to sweep through the room. Something was very, very wrong. We were in great danger. That was when I heard a voice. I got no words, however I detected the tone. It was cold and oh so alien. My mind at once labeled the speaker as a monster and seeing the thing only enforced the description. It looked like nothing I had ever seen before. It was human, lizard and insect-like at the same time, however it had a beak for a mouth rather like a bird. Also it had no skin, but what I guessed to be an exoskeleton. What was worse than that was the eyes, there was no humanity in those orbs. Ah, there you are, 18, 21 the creature greeted. I knew you were close by. It knew about us, but we knew nothing about it. This was bad as it gave the monster a big advantage over us. What are you? 18 asked. I could now see 17 and 16, they were just gawking at the thing. Much like how Goku's friends had stared at us upon our first meeting. Apparently this was a normal reaction in this world. Oh, how rude of me, the abomination said. Wherever are my manners? I so hated polite bad guys. My name is Celid, introduced as its slitted eyes met my human ones, and I am here to guide all of us towards perfection. Somehow I knew that this perfection was not a good thing. I was what I started to say.
That was when 17 charged the horrid thing, only he ended up with what passed for a knee getting driven into his stomach, and before he could register that an elbow met his face.
Do not be foolish, 17 the thing chided. It is useless to resist, and it is useless to run. I can track Android X no matter where he goes, his power cannot be hidden from me. Unlike yours. That was when I knew that this abomination really wasn't that bright. He just told us exactly how he found us, and how at least 3 of us could get away from him. Besides, I figured had a good chance of beating this cell, so it was hardly hopeless. This I proved when I kicked the monster in the head so hard that there was snapping noise, and he was forced to let 17 go. Everyone who doesn't want to die should run away, I advise, because I am going to level this entire forest, and you don't want to be here for that. No one replied, so I got ready to fight, then I made one more effort to make them leave. 18. I then said, I need you to do me a favor. Take 17 and get far away from me. He can track you if you're not with me, so leave. Now. I didn't wait for an answer. Instead, I attacked Cell and sent the monster flying into a tree hard enough that the poor plant was blasted into pieces. Then he went through another tree before finally coming to stop. Impressive, Cell hissed as the creator stood up and faced me. It looks like the Dr. Jero made a few improvements to you that I was not made aware of, however it matters not. I will still kill you. My only response was a slight smile. I said nothing, nor did I do anything until the abomination attacked me. Cell was good, but for every successful strike he made I landed 2 or 3 on him. I was better than the monster, and since it was superior to Vegeta, I was finally starting to understand just what I was capable of in a fight. It was incredible. My speed, my strength and my durability were off the scale. And I thought you were going to kill me, I mocked Cell when the creature backed off. Looks like your plan didn't work out. The abomination was bleeding something that might have been blood. Only it was the wrong color. I will destroy you, the monster promised. When it struck again, Cell's fist passed through empty air, as I was now much faster than the horrible being, and I was content to duck and weave about for a while as I was buying time for an 18 to escape. After all, they were closet thing. I had 2 family now, so I wanted them to be safe. However, that I couldn't go for the kill, and when I saw an opening, my clenched fist smashed into the beak-like mouth of Cell with all the force I could call upon. Okay, let's ramp this up, I decided. Cell nodded at me. Please do, it said. Hearing that made me smile, and then I kept smiling as I knew it was time to use something spikeful. Something I very much enjoyed. Kaioken. I heard myself shout. My next few moves were a lot stronger and faster than before, and it was just the start. Even as the grotesque creature moved away from me, I struck it again, and soon my other fist met the monster's stomach. It turned out that this Cell, unlike myself, had some sort of digestive system, as it could vomit. I then forced the monstrosity to its knees by hitting it in the back. This led to it lying on the ground in its own bodily fluids. Had enough? I asked. That had been a tough fight, but now the monster could hardly move, so it was over. Not yet, the thing yelled. Cell struck out with his tail, which I had totally forgotten about. Enough of this. Cell snarled, I am done with you, Android X. As the monster upped its game to the next level, my files told me something interesting. I was now ready to use Kaioken X, and there was no time like the present. Kaioken X. I heard myself shout. I'd already been twice as powerful as I normally was, and now I'd doubled that power. However, I wouldn't be able to sustain this level for long, which meant I need to end his battle. That was when the creature did something odd with its hands and started muttering some words I didn't understand due to lack of volume. However, while the sounds he made were nonsense, I understand what he was doing, and I also knew that I could it too. Soon 2 Kamehameha waves collided violently and they detonated. I reacted quickly and moved behind Cell before the creature could do anything other than scream in rage. The creature now looked to be rather worse for wear, so I figured that this was a good time to finish off the monster. I withdrew the sword I'd taken from the trunk sky, from the scabbard I'd picked up last night, and I aimed the point of the blade right at Cell. Behind you! I shouted out. Cell took the blade in the gut and it went right through the horrid thing. Only when I pulled the sword of the thing's guts it didn't fall down and die like I had expected. I was so shocked by this that I failed to defend myself when Cell knocked me aside. However, rather than try to kill me, the monster did something I did not expect. It raised its hands in the air like it just didn't care. Solar flare! The monster shouted. The flash of light blinded me, but thankfully nothing bad had happened while I couldn't see. Cell is fleeing, 16 informed me. That was good news. Well, no sense in worrying about that thing. I said it wasn't so tough and I gave it a nasty gut wound. Hopefully it will crawl off somewhere to die. Compared to the Prince of Nothing, Cell had been dangerous, but not compared to me at Kaioken X, and given the way I was growing in power, I figured I'd reach X before too long. We should be worrying about that thing. Gothic 17 corrected, what with it being able to do that thing with its tail. The tail hadn't done anything harmful to me, despite Celeste's efforts, so I was very confused. What was so dangerous about it? I inquired. I really didn't understand. Alright, you missed the part. The dark-haired cyborg realized before you started fighting Cell. It told me that was going to absorb us. There was a guy here that Cell brought along, and it stuck its tail into the poor bastard and drank the guy up. All that was left was clothes. I must have really been distracted by 18 not to have heard that happening a matter of meters away. I needed to say more alert. Let us just go find Son Goku and kill him. 17 then said that I'll keep my mind off the monster. That seemed like a plan, but I thought it might be wiser to find out more about this Cell. The thing had mentioned Jero, so there had to be a connection there. But that lab was gone along with the doctor. Hey 16. I called out, did Jero have any other labs or hideouts? This time the android actually paid attention to what was going on. Dr. Jero had a hidden lab beneath the one we were created in. I was told it is possible that it survived. That was good enough for me. Okay, we should fly back to the lab and check it out. I suggested it won't take long if we go at full speed. Then we can go Goku hunting. This plan was agreed upon, and soon we took to the skies. Flying wasn't my favorite thing. I still disliked heights, but it was worth it in order to be able to cover large distances so quickly. The combat have been going on for pretty some time now, while truly it ought to have been over in a relay of seconds. By some means the inexperienced alien dude, who become called Piccolo for some reason, had gotten a big raise in power considering that we had closing seen him. But this Piccolo had now not exceeded 17. For the duration of the fight neither of them seemed to have really gotten the upper hand. I knew that point will be the determining component in this healthy, because in contrast to the Namekian, my fellow part gadget guy nevertheless had giant amounts of electricity, whereas the alien changed into starting to get worn out. It would not be long before Piccolo made a deadly mistake. 18's twin brother had also observed this, which was why he had a cocky smirk plastered on face. Notwithstanding having already smashed 2 small islands in throughout the war, he wasn't getting knackered. What's the matter, green man? 17 taunted. Beginning to get tired already? Piccolo was able to fake that he was doing K. Do not worry, I nonetheless have enough energy to defeat you, he said. That was my fellow cyborg slammed his forehead into his foe's nose, and he accompanied that up with a knee to the Namekian's gut. Next 17 grabbed the lower back of Piccolo's head before slamming it towards the ground. It regarded then as if the alien become carried out, but the atypical being from any other international by hook or by crook discovered the will to hold fighting. And this very lot surprised the darkish-haired cyborg. The instant of shock became enough of a window of possibility for Piccolo to send 17 flying away from him, with an awesome uppercut to the chin. This nevertheless might pass on for some time, I said to 18 and 16. It's a rattling disgrace I cannot download a few apps. Neither of them were given what I was taking about, so I had to surprise if they even had apps on this international. Not did they have topics, as I doubted all and sundry could have gotten a Wi-Fi connection in this kind of faraway area. Let us simply watch, my idiot brother 18 suggested. He is sure to finish this combat sometime today. Android 17 had recovered speedy. He turned into now speeding towards the Namekian, and once more they began buying and selling blows. Whilst they each had a few powerful assaults, I was impressed through how durable they both were. Any 2 lesser beings would have been destroyed often over by means of now. 18 softly sighed. I may want to inform she become bored, but she and I had agreed not to intervene, and I would keep on with that promise, as 17 hadn't he gotten worried with my combat with Vegeta. You need to pay attention to me, the alien changed into now, saying there may be a monster named Cellular whose motive is to take in you and Android 18. This changed into not news to us. Yeah, we've met that monster. 17 spoke back, and Gothic kicked his scaly butt without much hassle. Actually it were some problem, however I saw no purpose to accurate my fellow cyborg's declaration. If he comes lower back, then my buddy will both finish him off or I can. 17 declared. We know what he can do now. Absolutely, we failed to clearly understand what cellular became or what the creature desired. We might gone again to Jero's place to look for clues most effective to find the hidden sub-lab have been destroyed. I suspected that a number of Goku's buddies had beaten us to it, and that they leveled the complete mountain in order not to depart us whatever we may want to use towards them. Which become a rattling shame due to the fact now we did not have the facts we needed on cellular. We had no idea how to prevent it from coming after us, or how to kill the rattling element. If that's how it's going to be, then I bet that I am going to have to finish you off earlier than Cell even has the chance to absorb you, the green guy said. I have no other desire. Before anyone else ought to say or do something, I felt that bloodless kick back again. The monster became here and the sensation turned into more severe than ultimate time. The hairs on the return of my neck felt like little spikes protruding of me. Hi freak, do not forget me. As he walked up to mobile, this dam will be the man who sends you guiding. I determined that I might intervene on this combat if I used to be wanted, because the abomination was lots more risky than something else we had confronted. Android 17, as cocky as ever, Cell replied. However, if Piccolo could not arise to me, what makes you watched you can? I puzzled if the monster had by hook or by crook gotten stronger, because it did not appear in any respect worried about being surrounded by way of so many lethal foes. And my spidey feel, as I was now calling it, changed into nonetheless tingling my spine. You are kidding me, right? 17 asked Green Man is nothing compared to me. That changed into lies, while I was positive that 18's twin brother ought to out remaining Piccolo in a fight. That became because he had extra stamina. In every other issue they were more frivolously matched. But I figured this changed into simplest because the alien had loads greater combating enjoy than 17. And you are nothing well as compared to me, Cell answered. However, fear no longer, soon you shall be part of me in sheer perfection. I nevertheless had no concept what that supposed, however to me it sounded instead sinister. I wanted no a part of mobile as perfection. No, I may not can help you. The inexperienced guy roared. Piccolo then grabbed Cell's tail and flung the monster away from the android with all his electricity before firing quite some strength blasts at the creature. Truly they did no longer get alongside thoroughly, and I figured that they should have fought earlier than. You no suit for him. 17 Piccolo warned. You want to get out of here now. That I agreed with. 18 I said to the blonde cyborg, take your brother and go. I will cope with Cell. If she responded, I didn't realize, because the abomination became already back for extra and I was giving the monster my complete attention. Which intended I got to watch as the terrible creature drove the inexperienced guy to the floor. Then I saw the stinger on the Cell's tail aim down in the direction of the alien, and that I failed to think it was a terrific thing. So I reacted at this point and used a disc of key strength to slice the quid of the monster's tail off. But earlier than I could do something else, 16 turned into status among mobile and myself. I am able to now not allow you absorb everybody else, the red-headed machine man declared. Your existence ends now. 16 become nonetheless a total thriller to me. He knew things that nobody else did, and then half the time he just stood around doing not anything. Then at other instances he gave us beneficial statistics. Now he turned into honestly inclined to do some fighting, and I had no idea why. Had I no longer absorbed so many, then maybe you will have stood a threat in opposition to me, Cellular advised the android. Now you stand no danger in any respect. Without warning, the monster kicked 16 so tough that the android without a doubt hit the water and bounced off it like a thrown stone. Whilst that became occurring, the green man attempted to attack Cellular, but the creature without difficulty stuck the flying frame of the Namekian and pressured him again to the ground so hard that the complete global regarded to shake. What become even more surprising than any of that become while Cell regrew his tail. I had so no longer seen that coming, and now I was worried that the abomination might be able to heal any harm done to it, making it unstoppable. Cellular drooled slightly as its stinger started to point in the direction of the Namekian. Everyone could suppose the creature turned into approximately to sit all the way down to a 12-course meal after fasting for a week. I have taken such a lot of into myself, the really, genuinely unsightly creature said. However, don't worry, I nonetheless have room for lots greater. No part of me wanted to understand how many people the monster had drank up. Thank you, Piccolo. Cell became now pronouncing your strength will assist me obtain my perfect form, and I am able to get to peer the expression on your face as your life involves and give up. Notwithstanding all that became taking place, I nonetheless took a moment to decide what to do. I figured that saving the alien was the proper aspect to do if best to prevent Mobile from getting any more potent. So I leaped into movement. Kaioken. I over again heard myself shout. The yell gave Cellular some warning, however now not sufficient to avoid my fists of fury. Sadly it did not preserve him down for lengthy, as my punches did no had been close to as a great deal harm as they did before. So Android X, now that you have seen simplest a small glimpse of my actual electricity, what are you going to do? Cellular requested me casually. Well, so far my plan was to preserve combating. Does it scare you? Cellular then inquired, does my strength frighten you? No matter what I had seen, the monster did now not scare me, as I failed to think that the creature would be able to absorb me. Not that I wanted to discover for certain. On the other hand, I used to be concerned approximately what it would do to everyone else, however I knew that expressing that worry became no longer an awesome concept. Nope, I lied. Due to the fact each 16 and Namekian have been again up that supposed the monster was outnumbered 3-1. Which additionally intended we had a risk to win this fight. Nicely, that is good. I would hate would you the runaway, Cellular commented at the same time as obtrusive at me. In the end someone should remain alive long enough to view my ascension. Since it become great now not to permit the monster get any more potent, I acted upon my intention to destroy it. Kaioken X. I shouted. My electricity double again. Wait, isn't he always that the inexperienced alien started out to mention? The sound of me hitting Cell over and over again reduced him off. Alas, the abomination should still heal himself as an alternative, well, so my assaults did little long-term damage. However, this just intended that I wasn't going for you to kill the aspect on my own. We might stand a threat if the three of us attacked one at a time, as then the creature would have no time to heal. I used to be pretty much to indicate that route of action when I noticed that 17 and 18 were still here. You need to go away, I advised them. Neither of the twins did the smart component. We can just leave you in the back of 18 stated. I had a reply to that. I was too busy being shoved into the ground to make it. Cell changed into standing on my back and it hurt lots. Rocket punch! A person shouted. A rocket-propelled fist hit the monster so difficult that it went out of view, and for a few motive I spent a second thinking what number of islands would be leveled today. Which clearly have to no longer were my largest situation proper now, so I targeted on the humans, not the region. Thanks 16, I stated. His reply turned into simple. You are welcome, Android 21, he stated. I resisted the urge to remind absolutely everyone that I was in truth a cyborg, no longer a robotic in human form. There have been a few huge variations. The absolutely working penis being a alternatively important one. At least in my view. What was that? The alien inquired. His fists got here off. The Namekian got no solution, as we very quickly had to turn our interest to Mobile. Concentrate. If we adapt one after the other and deliver the component no time to recover, then we will overwhelm Mobile, I informed the inexperienced dude in the crimson-headed device. Man, it could simplest heal if we supply it time to. Fortuitously all of us listened to me. Agreed, stated 16 to me. I will assault Mobile. Need to I suffer damage, then you definitely must retain the warfare straight away. Properly, that was pretty much what I had desired. Alright, turned into all Piccolo had to mention on the problem we re going to paintings collectively. I cherished it when a plan came together. It hardly ever subjects the monster, said I am able to. The issue got reduced off. Rocket punch! Yelled 16. It turned into just as cool the second one time around, and when you consider that 16 became on the attack, I ended using Kaioken as it become draining me. This turned into okay as should harm Mobile without the degree of power now that the abomination changed into being weakened through my robotic pal. Unluckily it wasn't all in our favor. 16 quickly observed himself broken and in order that supposed someone else needed to take over the fight. You were all Cell stated as Piccolo took his flip. For some reason the monster felt the want to threaten us while the inexperienced man fired his special beam cannon. The assault went right through Mobile. At the same time as I knew from Enjoy that such a wound couldn't kill the monster, I did recognize that the component would now want to flee. With the blood's arm I figured that as long as no one interfered with this combat we'd between us be able to damage the monster referred to as Mobile before it can devour both 16 or 17. That turned into when I sensed something so effective that my spine felt like someone had plugged a battery into it. Oh shit, I stated. It was Vegeta and he gave the impression of he wanted to kill a person. I figured it was me. The Prince of all Saiyans and his son, Trunks, were motionless in the air above us, and while I wouldn't have normally worried about them, after one look at them I knew that somehow they were not the same people we had so easily beaten in the past. They were stronger now, I could feel it, and while I didn't know how they grown in power so quickly, there was no sense denying it. The truth was plain to see in how they acted and by the way they looked at us. I got the sense that even if I was still strong enough to beat them, then afterwards I'd be easy pickings for Cell, so it seemed wise to avoid a fight. However, I wasn't willing to just run. I wouldn't simply abandon 16, 17 and 18. Because as scary as those two looked right now, I was far more afraid of what might happen if Cell got his hands on either of the twins. The monster didn't seem to share my fears, if anything he looked more bemused than scared. Which was also rather worrying. Good, you've gotten stronger since we last met, Vegeta said to me, but so have I.
The next thing I knew, the prince was right up in my face and he was sneering at me.
Then his right arm very quickly met my stomach and I was driven to my knees. I did not felt such pain since I was human, and then I discovered a whole new level of discomfort when a foot hit me in the side of my head and drove face first into the ground. What the fuck? Was all came out of my mouth. Apparently I still needed to breathe, and right now I was having some trouble doing that. How did you win? Did you get so strong? Someone else asked. That was heard Vegeta laugh. It was evil sounding and a little insane. Push-ups, sit-ups and plenty of juice, the prince said. Behind me I heard 18 cry out. Hearing her suffer made me mad enough that the pain I was feeling soon became nothing important and I was able to rise again. KO connects. I shouted. This time I was the fast one and I rammed into the prince hard enough to stop him from doing 18 any more harm. You dare, android! Called out Vegeta. I am the prince of all. He never got a chance to finish what he had been about to say as I punched him as hard as I could. The blow split open his lips, drawing blood, only this seemed to please the warrior. No! Piccolo shouted in warning. There was a bright light and the tingling in my spine went into overdrive. I knew before even turning around that the creature known as Cell had made its move. When I did look to see what was going on, I saw that both 16 and 18 were standing there gawking. However, 17 was nowhere to be seen, and Cell had changed in appearance. It wasn't at all hard to guess what had just happened. You next, 18, the abomination said with a smile on now far more human-looking face. Come join our brother. Understandably 18 drew back in revulsion, but she should have run instead.
Now it looked to be too late as Cell was reaching out for her, and I knew then if I didn't do something I'd lose both of the cyborg twins.
However, it was Vegeta who saved her. He was suddenly between her and Cell.
The princess fist met the monster's face, and the creature was soon many meters away from its prey.
Leave android, the warrior ordered 18. This freak is mine to destroy. Hopefully he meant Cell. Seconds later I had my answer. A massive mushroom cloud was rising up from the center of the island and I was nearly knocked off my feet by the force of the explosion. Vegeta had indeed greatly grown in power, and now it looked as if was going to show us by how much. Amazingly, Cell was still standing when the smoke cleared. Sure, the horrible thing was a bit battered, but its form was now protected by a barrier of shimmering energy. Which was a trick I'd seen 17 do earlier, and seeing it again told me that Cell now had access to all the powers that once belonged to 17. This also meant that there was very little chance of anyone being able to beat him, except maybe Vegeta. The rest of us had to run, to get as far away from the monster and the warrior as we could. I didn't stand a chance against any of my enemies, not now they had grown so powerful. 21. 16 then called out. I turned to look at the big robot. Where the fuck have you been? I asked in great anger. I could have used your help. The android with the red hair didn't reply to me. You must leave this area immediately, 16 said to 18. Cell must not be allowed to consume you as well. He was right about that. What? Was all 18 had to say. She was in shock. Which made sense as her brother had just died. I said. 16 began to repeat. The blonde-haired cyborg was now getting mad. I heard what you said. She snapped, but there's no point running, he can track Gothic. That issue could be solved by me not leaving. Cell will not find you, 16 told us, because 21 and I will destroy it. I had no idea how we do that, but since he looked like the android with the plan, I was willing to follow his lead. Yes, right, I said to 18, you need to leave. 16 and I are going to kill Cell. That could get messy. Vegeta was just toying with the monster, and while it looked like the prince had things under control, I knew that he really didn't understand what he was messing with. Cell could heal very fast, and sooner or later the alien warrior would make a mistake that the creature could exploit. No. The blonde cyborg argued, I want to leave. I'll fight with you. That was admirable, but it was also foolish. You will not, was 16's reply. You are the one Cell seeks to absorb. We cannot allow that. He was speaking for me as well, however I didn't mind as he was correct. Still I felt the need to support them, to add my voice to his so that we could make her understand. 16's right, I said, you can stay here. I then looked around to see that the Saiyan elite was still playing with the abomination, and that Trunks was just floating in the air. Oddly he looked older now, and I didn't think that anything to do with his hair being longer or the fact that he was wearing armor. Then my attention went back to Vegeta, who was now listening to Cell as the abomination told the prince that if he was allowed to consume Android 18 then he would be a foe worthy of fighting the Saiyan prince. I had the horrible feeling that Vegeta would agree to the terms that Cell was currently offering him. If we all attack now, together, we can, 18 started to say. Sadly there was a problem with that plan. I had just heard it. Vegeta is considering feeding you to Cell, I informed the blonde cyborg, and I don't think we can stop it from eating you. There's no time for more further debate, so I was trying to settle it quickly. Thankfully 16 was able to help. 21 and I are the only ones capable of doing this. The big robot said, I will not survive this, and if you stay neither will Android X. He sounded very certain of that. 18, I tried to say. Really I didn't know what to say now. Thankfully she gave in. Just don't die on me too, she requested. While I had no intention of dying, I couldn't be sure I'd survive what was coming. You know I can promise that, I told her. 18 didn't say anything, she just grabbed me and suddenly she was kissing me. It was very intense and nothing like the making out we'd been doing earlier. Don't die. She ordered. I had no words for her. It's time, someone then said. Piccolo was suddenly there, and it made sense that we would be the one to guide 18 away from here. I then figured that he knew somewhere she'd be safe from Cell, who couldn't sense her energy. However, since he could sense mine, it was best that I didn't know where she was going, as the creature might be able to access that information should it gobble me up. So what's your plan, 16? I inquired once 18 and the Namekian were gone. I hope it's a good one, because if Cell doesn't kill us then Vegeta will. At this point I was thinking that we might need to go nuclear. 21 The android said while meeting my eyes, you must absorb me. I didn't quite believe what I had just heard. Did you just say something about me absorbing you? I asked. That had been what he said, and yet I still couldn't process it. Yes was 16's simple answer. I still couldn't fully grasp what the android was suggesting. It was too crazy. Okay, so either Vegeta hit me harder than I thought or this world has gone completely nuts. I figured there is no way I am eating someone like Cell this. That's totally insane. Plus even I had been willing to do such an evil thing, I had no orifice for the act. There is no time to argue about this. 16 said, place your hand on my chest. Then I will start the process for my absorption. Some part of human brain felt the need for humor at this point. I think I am supposed to take you on at least one date before I get to second base, I poorly joked. Clearly 16 had not been built with a funny bone. He didn't even smile. If we unite, will I still be me? I then asked with a little concern. Despite my issues, I still put my arm on his massive and bored chest. I do not know how it will affect your persona, 16 admitted, but you will gain great power by my sacrifice. It will be enough to defeat both Cell and Vegeta if you use it wisely. 16 was Fruit Loops in my view. The prince was far more powerful than the monster. I am going to be miss you, big guy, I admitted to the android as he gripped my arm. I wished we talked more. To my surprise 16 smiled. Do not worry, I will always be with you, the redhead said. Before I had a chance to ask what that meant, something very strange happened. 16 began to glow and then I felt an odd sensation. There were no words to describe what was happening to me, and soon it became too much for me to withstand and I blacked out. Line break. Rebooting. Yo, the voice in my head sounded like Android 16 rather than Jero, and while that was a welcome change, I figured that it meant what was left of 16 was now living inside my head. Which was creepy on so many levels. Reboot complete. Now I could get up and move about. As I did that, I was able to tell that I had greatly grown in power. The energy hummed inside me. Android 21 can now defeat Cell. I agreed that I would easily destroy that monster in this form. Not that I would need to, as since 18 was gone, Vegeta had decided that he wasn't willing to wait for his victory. He had gone back to bitch slapping Cell around. Which pleased me. Android 21 is in his perfect form. I then realized that if nothing else, my own transformation had increased my height, as a pissed off Trunks was standing before me and he seemed smaller than before. Also, he didn't look as strong either. You have something of mine, he said. By now I'd totally forgotten about his sword. Thankfully it was still hanging off my hips, so I was able to return it. I figured that I didn't really need it anymore, and it wasn't as if I couldn't get my own sword. Now where is Cell? I asked myself. Before I could even look around for the freak, I came under attack. Trunks had decided to murder me. I am going to make sure that you never take another innocent life, the purple-haired warrior declared. Given that I'd only ever killed one person, and he hadn't been a nice guy, I was rather confused by this statement. But that didn't stop me from easily catching the swung sword with the palm of my hand. Trunks was rather surprised by this, and since I was able to see my own reflection in the blade of weapon, I checked myself out. I was not only a few feet taller than before, I was also a little larger. Overall, that didn't make a huge difference in my appearance, as for some reason I hadn't gained a lot of Massachusetts, although my hair had changed color. It was now dark blue rather than black. It could be worse, I said. Trunks was putting a lot of effort into trying to reclaim his sword. I figured that I could snap the blade in two if I wished, but it was a nice weapon, so I did not ruin it. Instead, I just took the sharp thing off him. You can have it back if you promise not to try to kill me with it. I told the Saiyan warrior we have to stop Cell before your father decides he gets bored and tries to feed it 18 just so he can get a good feed. Trunks seemed to deflate a little. Okay, fine, he said. The fighter put his sword away. Now let's go and kill Cell, I suggested, then afterwards you can tell me what I did to piss you off so much. The kid treated me like I was his worst enemy, however until a few days ago I'd never even met the guy. Yet he did hate me a lot, so I decided that I would have to reason with him or he was just going to start fighting me again. He wouldn't win since was so much stronger now, but I had desire to end his life, so in my view a battle between us was best avoided. Trunks, I went on to say, I know you that you're nowhere near as foolish as your father. So I am going to give you one chance to help me destroy Cell. Do that and I swear to leave you and friends alone. The purple-haired fighter took a moment to consider my words. You mean you want to try to kill Goku or my father, he asked. I really had desire to do either of those things. Cell was my concern, and even that was because I wanted to avenge 17 and protect 8, not because I wanted to fight. As long as they don't try to kill me first, I said. That was when Cell's beaten and very broken body landed at my feet. Apparently the prince had gotten fed up with the freak and was now looking for a new fight. Sadly Cell was still alive. I knew this because I could now sense the thing's energy. Just go and throw what's left of the thing into a volcano, or better yet the sun, I said as Vegeta slowly walked towards me. I think your dad and I are going to settle things. Hopefully Trunks would do the smart thing because his father wasn't capable of doing that. Also I was pretty sure that either he or I was going to die today, and I really didn't want the dead person to be me, so I needed to focus on the fight we were about to have. As I said to your kid, I won't kill you unless you come after me, I told Vegeta, but you want to fight, then I am not going to hold back. Hearing that made the prince smile, and when he threw the first punch I knew it was on. Author note. Okay, so I watched the Cell games, and it dragged on and on. It was boring as hell, so I am thinking of just killing off Cell and then having Gothic take on Vegeta. After all, Android 21 is supposed the most powerful of Jero's creations, and having perfect Cell in this story makes that claim invalid. Would that upset everyone? It could go either way at this point. I haven't shown how powerful Super Android 21 is yet, so he could surpass even perfect Cell once he reaches Super Saiyan because 18 gets eaten. I heard the Prince of Nothing and No One at all curse up a storm as he dragged himself out of the churning salt water. His quick dip into the sea had done nothing to clam him down. Damn it, damn it, damn it. The Saiyan warrior stood on shaking legs as he raised his body back up to a more level position. His arms were quivering as he pointed them up at me. I figured that was due more to the sheer amount of rage he was feeling than the cold. Hey toaster oven. The human-sized troll doll roared, prepare for a big bang attack. At the rate we're going we would run out of islands before I was able to subdue or kill Vegeta, but on the plus side the volcano had erupted again, so what was left of that abomination had been dealt with. The part of 16 that was in my head had informed me that he could no longer sense Cell's energy. The creature's impressive regeneration abilities hadn't been able to handle the beating the monster had gotten, at least not while also taking a bath in liquid hot magma.
I was happy about that, but I also felt as if Cell should have been harder to finish off, as if I'd missed out on an epic battle to take him down.
But as tough as the thing had been, all creatures had their limits. Still I couldn't help but wonder if Cell had been flawed in some way. Not that it really mattered now. The prince had needed a second or two to charge his attack, and that given me more than enough time to plan my next move. I avoided the energy blast by simply not being there, but this didn't mean much as the alien warrior went back to attacking me right away. His batteries were nowhere near drained, it seemed. Granted, nothing that Vegeta had done up to this point had done more than give me a few bruises, and that was starting to make me worry about just how powerful I now was. Not only had my upgrade had come at a high price, 16's body, I was also concerned that Goku's friends would keep coming after me because of the threat I represented. I might never get any peace. Vegeta, I said, give it up. You can win.
He was far more of a challenge now than he had been when we first met, however that meant he was dangerous to the planet than to me since, as thanks to 16 I was now well beyond the Saiyan in fighting skill.
Rather than reply right away, Vegeta straightened up as much as he could and then he puffed out his chest. Listen to me, you overgrown microwave, he said, I will rip you apart with my bare hands.
I didn't listen, and before he could finish threatening me again, which he stopped to do every time I beat him down, I decided that for once I would try insulting him.
Oh, just shut up, you prick! I shouted. That had been far from my best when it came to insulting people, but actions spoke louder than words, so I figured that I would do something very painful.
While knew that if I killed the prince then the other fighters would come after me, but they might at least consider leaving me alone if I just left Vegeta crippled for life.
One of my hands came crashing down with tremendous speed, and the troll doll was barely able to dodge the attack. My fist ended up reducing more of this once peaceful island into a wasteland. If they had something like great peace here, those guys were going to haunt me until the end of time. The golden-haired warrior took off in a flash and headed into the sky. I figured he was hoping to place some distance between us. Possibly so he could fire off another one of those deadly Big Bang attacks. Thankfully for me, I had an inbuilt shield now, and also I was grateful for the fact that Trunks was staying well out of the way. If the two of them started tag-teaming me, I would be in so much trouble. Big Bang attack? Vegeta yelled. My shield held despite the sheer power of the energy-based attack, and I smirked at the prince, but my mirth didn't last as soon Vegeta was in front of me. To make things worse, he held a charged ki blast in each hand. I easily deflected these latest attacks, and then I grabbed Vegeta's forearm after he punched me so hard I would have sworn I heard him break at least 2 fingers. A second later, my foe was crying out in agony as I squeezed. I mercilessly tried to crush the Saiyan limb. He attempted to stop me, but I was able to block his few feeble blows. "Father, you have to stop this," Trunks begged.
I hadn't even seen the purple-haired guy come over to us, and that worried me as it meant I still wasn't paying enough attention to my surroundings, yet I was glad that he was trying to calm things down.
"Stay out of this, boy," the prince ordered.
With his free hand, Vegeta slapped his son around the back of the head, and while the blow didn't do much harm, I could tell that emotionally it had hurt loads.
"People like you are the worst," I softly said to the Saiyan. "You don't care about anyone else. Only about yourself." I knew from my files that this alien warrior had tried to destroy the Earth in the past, and in our last fight it had been him who had caused many people to lose their lives. "You were willing to let 18 die just because you wanted a good fight," I went on to say. "Well, you got a decent fight with me. I hope you're enjoying yourself, you stupid git."
That was when I slapped the alien as hard as I could, then I kicked the prince to the ground and Vegeta quickly got back to his feet.
Impossibly, he was still able to fight, and by now I was more than willing to kill the short prick, so I blasted him with a massive ball of ki energy. Annoyingly, he somehow survived the blast, but that wasn't too disappointing as it meant I could go and kill him with my bare hands. I landed next to the prince as he got up yet again, and I kicked him in the face while doing a sort of backwards flip thing. It must have looked really cool, and I was ashamed that it had never occurred to me to find a way to record my fights. "How does it feel, Vegeta?" I asked, to be helpless, just like all the people you've murdered over the years. I had a lot on this guy in my files. More than Jero should have known, so I knew that this alien had destroyed entire worlds in the past, and I figured he might do so again. Vegeta turned his head towards me as he tried to get up. "I've changed. I'm not the man I once was," he said. "I am now Super Vegeta. And I'll show all you pathetic androids why picking a fight with me was a big mistake." The prince's head swiftly met with my elbow, and that act drove him into the dirt where he belonged. For all his bluster, the Saiyan really wasn't that impressive. "You are nothing but a thug," I told the alien. "I am the strongest now." Next, I formed a ball of ki energy in the palm of my hand, and I let it grow bigger until it became blinding in its brilliance. I intended to blast Vegeta at very close range. That was when I felt something very distracting. A sudden surge of power that could only coming from Vegeta's son. 21. Trunks shouted from above me, "Get away from my father." This I found funny, but only because it was so pitiful. Vegeta wasn't worth his child's concern, yet he had it. I figured that I would have to deal with the purple-haired guy before I could kill the one person on this fucked up world that I actually wanted to terminate. "He is not worth fighting for," I told the younger Saiyan as I flew up to join him in the sky. "He doesn't give a damn about you or anyone else. I mean, for fuck's sake, he just hit you when you were trying to help him." Before Trunks could reply, something else happened. I could sense a growing power that was very close by. Like right next to me. "I will not stand for this," the older of the two Saiyans then yelled. His fury was so great that I could almost taste it as the prince rocketed up towards me while engulfed in golden light. I just punched him once and he fell back to the ground, yet even that wasn't enough to shut him up. I will not be beaten by a machine, Vegeta promised. With that, the so-called elite warrior began to charge up his power. It would have looked like he was taking a dump if not for the fact that landscape was changing and lightning was starting to fill the darkening sky. Warning: Vegeta is gathering planet-destroying levels of angry. I came to understand then that if he hit anything other than Mimi with that kind of power, then the earth would go boom. Okay, so Vegeta has totally lost it, I said in panic. Trunks was also rather upset. You're going to destroy the whole planet? He called out. Father, please. You've got to stop. Of course Vegeta wasn't listening. He was being a dick. Energy absorption recommended. Some more vials entered my head and what looked like gemstones soon appeared on my hands, and also thanks to my upgrade I knew exactly how to use them. Final flash. A massive blast burst from Vegeta's hands. I had just enough time to put up hands up before the beam struck me. Most of the energy swept past me, but some of it was absorbed, and since I was up in the air the planet did not blow up. As for Prince, the effort had left him severely drained. He sank to his knees down on the beach, and even from up here I could see sweat beading upon his brow. Now it's finally over, the Saiyan called out in joy. Everyone. Given that he could sense energy, he should have known that I was still alive. Okay, my turn, I said. I knew exactly how to finish this guy. Kamehameha. The irony was that I was using the guy's own energy against him. Father, cried Trunks. The energy blast hit Vegeta and the prince began to scream. Line break. Upon the lookout, the Namekian known as Piccolo sensed the destruction of Cell, which was good news. Then he sensed the death of Vegeta, which was not as good. What is going on? Tien inquired. The green guy decided to just come out and give everyone the news. Cell is gone, he reported. Everyone cheered. Also, Vegeta was just killed by Android 21, the Namekian then informed. Given the looks she was getting, 18 decided that it was time for her leave, so she took off as fast as she could. Line break. What was left of Vegeta would not need cremating, as he was already ashes. Yet I wasn't given much time to enjoy this, as Trunks was a bit upset about his daddy snuffing it. I was forced to once more defend myself as another of this world's heroes tried to murder me. I grabbed the blade of the sword with my left hand and then I punched the purple-haired guy so hard that he ended up in the ocean. I could only hope that he would cool off or start grieving, because I so didn't have the energy to fight another Saiyan. The problem with leaving was that I didn't have anywhere to go. I had no clue where 18 was, but that wasn't an issue for long as she turned up. Cell is dead, I informed her, and so is Vegeta. She didn't surprised by my very good news. I know, she told me, and so do the rest of Goku's friends. That didn't concern me much, as the only one left who was much of a threat was Trunks, who was currently crying, while cursing my name. He really didn't like me, but at least now he had a valid reason for it. And I should care why? I questioned. She had an answer. Because in a few hours Goku will finish his training, she said. He is even more powerful than Vegeta, and he'll have a lot of help. I had no idea what kind of training they could be doing, but the results were impressive, so I was now a little worried. But not for long, as I soon came up with a plan. Do you know where they are? I asked her. She nodded and I smiled. Then please lead me to them, I requested. It's time to end this. As we took to the skies, there was another question for my fellow cyborg. Are you going to kill them? 18 inquired. That certainly was an option. No, I am going to sue for peace, I told her as we rose higher. I think enough people have died. I figured that I had a window of opportunity here. Goku wasn't ready to face me, and without Vegeta they didn't stand a chance of stopping me, so they might pick peace. If they were the hero types, they would take up my offer, and they had good reason to, as both 17 and 16 were gone. This greatly lessened us as a threat. Plus 18 and I weren't that interested in world domination, killing Goku, or whatever it was they were worried we would do. So what happened to 16? The blonde cyborg wanted to know. That was a long story, and since I only wanted to explain everything the one time, I figured that it was best to wait. Why is your hair blue? 18 then inquired. The answer to that question would also have to wait, as it tied into what had happened to 16. I will explain later, I said. I followed 18, and I was very amazed to find that Goku's pals were all striking out on a massive platform that was in the sky. Out of all matters that would have crossed my mind, I spent a moment questioning if any aircraft had ever almost collided with this vicinity. As my fellow cyborg and I landed, I noticed extra of the area, and I discovered that there had been buildings up here too. Heck, there have been even bushes developing. I couldn't recognize how, because the air ought to be too thin at this altitude for vegetation or for human beings to breathe. But right here they had been, even a child looking wholesome sufficient. Of root, I didn't spend too much living on things like I had come right here on crucial commercial enterprise, and on account that I could not experience any electricity stages here that a qualder past my very own, I figured that Goku nonetheless wasn't a lower back from wherein he became hanging out. Which supposed that right now I had a large benefit, and therefore I might be capable of dictate terms. Krillin now, I heard someone shout. The bold dwarf pressed a button on a far off, and 18 simply dropped to the floor like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I've however become physically high quality, although I used to be stressed on an emotional level, as I did not understand in any respect what had simply happened. Android 18 has been deactivated. Now I understood that the tool the quick man turned into maintaining changed into a device intended to exchange us cyborgs off. Only it hadn't labored on me due to the modifications I might undergone upon soaking up 16, or as a minimum that changed into what I believed. For a moment I might forgotten that she was element system, as it became not possible to inform just via her outward appearance. Neither people looked as if we might been assimilated by means of the board. Android 18 will reboot, that become proper to understand, but I used to be still annoyed, and that I failed to want them messing with 18 once more, so I moved with all my widespread pace and grabbed the farway. Then I beaten it with my one hand and placed the alternative round the short man's neck. It'd have been easy enough to kill Krillin, however that would be counterproductive, so I took the little man as a hostage.
Due to the fact that I might moved so speedy, it became only now that the warring parties had gotten over the shock of the tool failing to replace me off, and after they realized that I had their pal in my grasp, the group got equipped to combat.
You know, I should kill you all proper now, I advised the warriors, however I didn't come here for that. I came to make peace. They got me a round of gasps. It changed into dramatic. You don't count on us to trust that, do you? If you girl, I didn't realize the call of asked you killed Vegeta. I had a legitimate respond. He attacked me, I stated it become self-defense, and he almost destroyed the complete planet as opposed to give up, so I didn't have a desire. I wasn't positive the defenders of this world regularly occurring that because the truth, however they have been nonetheless listening, so I saved speaking. He rest the provide, I said, you leave 18 and me on my own, and we may not do something to harm the harmless humans of this international. We'll best fight to shield ourselves.
I would now not promise to in no way hurt all and sundry, as I had a feeling that finally someone would attempt to harm us, and if that befell, then I failed to need to begin any other fight simply due to the fact I have been protecting myself.
How can we understand? You may hold your phrase. The three-eyed fellow requested. You had been created by way of medical Dr. Jero to kill Goku. You is probably planning something. We may not allow our guard down. Even though I was outnumbered pretty a chunk, I could nevertheless kill them all without plenty problem. I would ways past their stages of power. Due to the fact, in case you refuse my provide, then I slaughter you all, I instructed them, and then I will take my possibilities with Goku.
The fighters started to change glances, and that I figured they had been going to assault me. Most effective they failed to, because that become when Trunks arrived, and he turned into no longer a glad camper. He became keeping a totally charged ball of key strength at the nevertheless rebooting blonde-haired cyborg. Permit Krillin pass or I will damage 18, he said. At this point it become too dangerous to preserve the dwarf hostage, so I allow him cross.
Trunks became amazed viaduct this, as had been the others. They did not seem to understand that I wasn't a awful guy. If Goku had been here he'd spoil you. The lady with the infant became now pronouncing although Vegeta could not.
I wasn't so sure approximately that, I figured I had a risk at winning, but I in reality wasn't willing to take the risk, and simply there was no want to.
It wasn't like I wanted the fellow lifeless. Well, lamentably for you he isn't right here I talked about. No one spoke for a while, so I decided to do the speaking component. Look, I understand that if we agree to not combat every other anymore, then you may all honor the deal I stated, and as for Goku it changed into 16 and 17 who desired to kill him. And they may be both long past now. I gave this some moments to think about what all that supposed. 18 and that I clearly don't care about what Jero wanted. I then knowledgeable he failed to end our programming, so we re-lose to choose. Or even if 18 did need to kill your buddy I wouldn't permit her. Now not that I would need to, as the girl Cyborg hadn't truly been that inquisitive about killing everybody. 17 and 16 had been the riding pressure behind that assignment, and what they desired failed to count anymore. I'll sweeten the deal. I went on stay. I've got lots of documents on you humans, so I know you've faced plenty of awful men earlier than. In case you conform to peace, then I will promise that we'll help you towards any destiny. Horrific guys. Some of them looked to be thinking about my offer. Fine, we agree, stated the inexperienced guy. Everybody changed into amazed, so the alien defined his reasoning.
We don't stand a alternate without Goku, and he is now not right here. The alien reminded his buddies, but he can be soon, so if the androids try something within the future he can cope with them.
Trunks turned into the loudest objection. He killed my father. This I did not deny. It turned into self-defense. I argued, you know that you were there. Vegeta desired to kill me and I absolutely protected myself. Then I noted the other motive why I might kill the Saiyan. Vegeta become even inclined to allow Cell devour 18 simply so he should get a good combat. I knowledgeable the combatants, if that had passed off all of us could have died. Vegeta was insane. Plus he'd nearly blown the planet. He is nothing but a monster. The crimson-haired guy called out, he has murdered hundreds of thousands of harmless humans. I used to be alternatively offended by that. No, I haven't, I protested. I killed people, and neither of them have been accurate men. In fact, Vegeta was the one who had slaughtered tens of millions. No, I imply in destiny. Trunks yelled. Well, that did explain how he'd be fully grown whilst his father wasn't that antique. He traveled back in time. Oddly, that was easy to accept. You and the two androids killed everybody here, after which took over the sector. The man with the sword changed into Nasaying, but no longer, before doing away with complete cities. The other day I had figured that I ought to come to rule the world by using genuinely destroying any primary agreement that refused to surrender. Reputedly the concept had benefit. Wait a second, I then stated, which androids? Vegeta's son seemed prepared to start hacking together with his sword, so I determined to hold speaking in order avoid a bloodbath. If a fight started I should kill them all, after which wish I could defeat Goku. However, now that the Trunks became here I wasn't so sure how easy it'd be to kill the others. He may want to at the least gradual me down long sufficient for the others to get away, or he ought to simply blow up 18 before I got accomplished with his friends. Inside the Destiny U together with 17 and 18 take over. The warrior flying above defined anybody who resisted was killed. That failed to make any experience. 17 is lifeless in order that cannot take place, I pointed out, and I have not killed anybody here. I am trying to make peace. That certainly didn't make any experience due to the fact if Trunks had changed the beyond, then the future he lived in didn't exist anymore. So he shouldn't remember it that way.
Yes, right, the inexperienced guy said. 17 is long past, and if 21 wanted to he may want to without problems kill us all, but he has best been protecting himself, and he fought mobile with me.
If Vatega hadn't gotten concerned we would have received without dropping 17. Well, I used to be happy to see that at least one among them changed into rather practical. Why do not you just pass again to the destiny and see if I keep my word? I advised. If I nonetheless take over, then you could come returned and tell Goku, after which he stopped me in the gift. That is probably possible. It depended on how time tour worked. It does not paintings that way now, Trunks then instructed me the androids in my timeline are nevertheless there. Which meant he came from an exchange timeline. That defined why he hated me right from the begin. The me in his global had accomplished all terrible matters and he blamed me for it. Which became absolutely unfair. This means that killing me may not alternate something, I argued. I had greater to say, but that become while a door opened and out of it stepped Goku and a kid who my documents told me became his son. Oh no, I heard 18 say. I was happy to look that she had rebooted, however that changed into overshadowed through the fact that I is probably approximately to die. Oh hello Gothic, Goku stated with a wave. What are you doing right here? He acted as though knew me, but as far as I knew we might never met. So this turned into all very puzzling to say the least. Did you return to assist us combat Mobile? The fighter then requested me. Happily any person else spoke, due to the fact I honestly could not. Mobile is useless, Piccolo said to his pal, and so is Vegeta. That amazed Goku, and that I considered attacking at the same time as he become distracted, but given the fellow's power level I used to be much less positive, approximately beating him now. Also his son's degree become nearly as horrifying. Who killed Vegeta? Goku inquired. Each person looked at me. It turned into self-defense, I said in a hurry. He changed into seeking to kill me. Oddly Goku failed to seem that disenchanted. Properly we can desire him again with the Dragon Balls. The warrior said we can use the ones on Namk. I had know what the ones had been. However, if they could want human beings returned to life, then it made no sense that Trunks become so disenchanted, approximately his dad being useless. However, first we hire forestall those evil androids, Goku then stated. We simply want to discover where are they. We were proper here. They may be right here, Goku the green guy knowledgeable. For as soon as I failed to sense the need to correct everybody at the reality that 18 and I were cyborgs, no longer merely robots that mimicked the human shape. Nicely I can experience her strength, Goku said whilst point at 18, so she is an android, however wherein as the opposite one. Everyone becomes still so stressed. 17 and 16 are dead, Trunks told the older Saiyan, but 18 and 21 are proper there in the front of you. That failed to honestly clear matters up as a lot as possibly it need to have. No, it really is Gothic, Goku said. I have met him before, his female friend delivered him here for education. I am certain I noted this. Well, absolutely, the Sector's strongest fighter turned into definitely insane. That or I died combating Vegeta and this become my messed afterlife. I have in no way been right here before I corrected the Saiyan, and that I do not actually have a girlfriend. Some way I felt 18 obtrusive at me. I used to be able to ignore it. Wait, hold, for your power is extraordinary, Goku then stated to me. You have changed. Properly my DNA were changed and that I had machine components, so that type of made feel. Kinda. So that you have to be from another measurement too, Goku realized, and if you whatever just like the Gothic I knew, then you're no longer a terrible man. I simply understood that. So that you've met a model of me from some other universe, I reasoned, and he got here to teach with you. That become notably smooth to comprehend. Although for the reason that over the previous couple of days I might met cyborgs, androids, extraterrestrial beings and a time vacationer, the concept of there being variations of myself in other realities wasn't that difficult to believe.
Yeah, Goku replied. He was a hero in his world, so if you're anything like him, then we must be at the same side. Well, that become what I desired, type of as I failed to suppose I might win being the baby, now not if the son and father tag teamed me, and the good guys have been better at the team painting stuff than the baddies.
So I figured that all the combatants mixed might steamroll over me and 18 if it came to a fight. I would really like to stop the preventing, I stated to the warriors. I absolutely got here to make peace with you guys. Trunks then were given all pissed off once more. He is evil? The fellow shouted. I were given the sense that speaking this out become going to take a while. I was happy that I failed to want to consume or sleep. I watched as Trunks caught the hands of Android 14 and ended up in a struggle with the big freak. The silver-skinned android was totally emotionless as he did battle with the purple-haired men, and I found that off-putting. Trunks was here for a reason that I did not know. I doubted that he'd chased after 18 and I in order to try to kill us because he seemed angry. To find out for sure I'd have to wait until after we'd dealt with these baddies. You will be destroyed one way or the other, 14 said flatly. I then glanced behind me to see 18, who was currently trading blows with Android 13, and she was having trouble with the purple dwarf for some reason. Come on, 18, I shouted. 18, either hurry up and destroy him, or let me have a turn. If she replied I didn't hear it, as that was when I felt a chill go up spine once again. Android 13 is nearby. 16 was still in my head, but thankfully he didn't speak very often. Why are there so many damn androids? I heard Trunks shout out. That was a good question. Let me find out, I said to the angry Saiyan with the cool sword. Just focus on your opponent, little buddy. Trunks glared at me, but not for long as he was still fighting. Let us see, we've got a purple dwarf with a drinking problem, I said while gesturing at 15 and 14. As for the other one, he is clearly the strong and silent type. So what is your thing? Given the trucker hat, I could have made a good guess. Well, you see, boy, the kind Dr. Jero just finished installing the same upgrades into myself that he nicely gave you. Android 13 explained to me, and before he sends us after the darn Goku fella he wants you dirty traitors dealt with. Well, that explained why the cyborgs were here. It did not explain where they had come from. That whole mountain was leveled, I said, so you must have come from another lab. In my experience, the bad guys always gave people more information than one was wise. Only this time that didn't happen, as 13 decided to punch me instead. It actually hurt. Things got worse as I then swayed due to another powerful punch from 13, and I punched him back across the jaw, which sent him flying through the air. Cocky bastard, I muttered. Given that I had a chance, I took a moment to look around, and I saw the large android headbutt the purple-haired warrior, and that was followed by a punch to the stomach. The Saiyan returned the favor with an elbow to 14's face. I figured that the time traveler was holding back since he hadn't gone all golden yet. Now 18 was easily dealing with every attack Android 15 threw at her, and she returned them with a series of rapid blows. Had I time to make a comment on what I was seeing, I would have told her how hot she looked right now. The small purple android looked rather worse for wear. His mechanical eye and brain case were visible for all to see. All the purple guy had done to her was to ruin her jacket and t-shirt. I was not surprised by this, as she managed to get through clothes at an alarming rate. After one powerful kick, 15 tried to get up again, but his head fell off of his shoulders and he was quickly destroyed by an energy blast from 18. Nothing was left save for a few intact parts that were now scattered on the ground. What in tarnation? The hillbilly called out as he flew up to me. I couldn't imagine why Jero had created this offensive stereotype, and I didn't care to find out. I was just going to wreak it. Oh, shut up! I yelled before punching the hick. After slapping 13 down for the second time, I then turned to see how Trunks was doing. He appeared to be winning against the synthetic android he faced, however for some reason he appeared to still be holding back. Despite that, Trunks was now blocking every attack 14 threw with his sword. However, it was only a matter of time before he would run out of energy. A living being could only keep fighting for so long, whereas Jero's creation seemed to have infinite energy and could fight forever, at least in theory. Had the Saiyan gone, or Super could have destroyed the big android within a few minutes. Yet for some reason he was holding back, and that might get him killed. You might want to help him out, I suggested to the blonde cyborg. She looked amused by my words. I already ruined my jacket, she said. I don't want to mess up the rest of my outfit. 18 then tucked a strand of her hair behind her ears as we just stared at each other for a few moments. Whatever, just finish the redneck off, she said as she flew over to Trunks. I figured then that even part machine women were totally impossible to understand. Will do, I replied as I caught a fist that 13 had wanted to hit me with. I backhanded the hillbilly very hard before speaking to him. You know, I am surprised you even dared to come fight me, I said to 13. You're a totally inferior model. Which I proved when I sent the android slamming into the ground. Thankfully there was no one around to get hurt as 18 and I had been hanging around in the middle of nowhere while trying to figure out what we were going to do with our lives. We know where to live and no money to get a place with. It was a bit of a problem. As I 13 started to say. The inbred cyborg was interrupted with a punch to the stomach. He'd only just gotten up and now he was on his back again. I seemed to spend a lot of time knocking people down and yet they always got back up again. Stubbornness was a universal trait shared by more than humans. Android 13 was getting angry now and I didn't blame him, as aside from at the start of the fight he kept failing to land a good hit on me. You really are just a piece of junk, I commented. In fact, now I could see some of the junk he was made from. The redneck was far less organic than I was. Take this, 13 called out. The android went on to create a massive ball of red-colored energy and then he sent it at me, but ever since I had fused with 16 I had been able to consume energy, so the ball didn't exist for very long. Don't worry, I am going to give you that energy back, I assured 13. Which I did in the form of blast. Sadly it didn't do much damage. 21 You need to finish him off now. Trunks called out. There was no real need. I had everything under control, and I wanted to smack the hick around little more before sending him to silicon hell. You've defeated the others, so I'll deal with this guy, I told Trunks. Just stand back and watch. The Saiyan growled at me, but I ignored him. So 14 and 15 have been destroyed. Android 13 said with a laugh. Well, isn't that something? That was when some of the small parts left over from the now deactivated androids came flying over to 13. What is he doing? I asked 16. Android 13 is fusing with the remains of androids 14 and 15. That had to be the upgrade he'd been going on about earlier. You really should have destroyed him, Trunks needlessly told me. In retrospect, that would have been wise. Well, live and learn, I said. I would most certainly learn from this, assuming of course that I survived. Hopefully, I then added. 13 laughed as his skin began to turn blue, his hair started growing while turning red, and his body became much bigger. What is going on? 18 asked me. I could answer that. 13 had fused with what's left of 15 and 14. I explained it's like what happened to me in 16, only with steroid abuse. The blonde cyborg was not happy about this. You know this is your fault, she said. Well, she was right. This is what I was trying to warn you about. Trunks then informed us we found the hidden lab under the mountain this morning, and my mom figured out what Android 13 can do. That was when an idea struck me. I blasted the blue-skinned freak while he continued to get larger and larger. Only no Jero's creation now had a shield in place, so my blast did nothing. However, I knew that this defense didn't work if you were moving, so as soon as we started fighting again I would be able to blast 13. Lucky for you guys, I saved most of my energy, Trunks said. I had been wondering why he hadn't gone all golden, and now I knew why. Can you take him? 18 asked. I really didn't know, as 16 normally handled that whole power level sensing thing, and he wasn't say anything. We'll have to find out, I replied. Finally the transformation was done. How is about a second round? 13 inquired. This monstrous transformation looked very lethal. I was actually a little scared. I'll make it quick, 13 then said. The Saiyan screamed and went all golden. He followed that with a swift kick to 13's face, but that only had a slight effect on our enemy. What the hell? Trunks questioned. Android 13 smiled at us. Okay, my turn, I said. I threw a barrage of punches at the blue behemoth, but I didn't cause much damage, and before I could try to do more the massive android caught my wrists. Then he started to squeeze that really hurt. Trunks kicked 13 in the back, but the android didn't react. 18 tag in, I requested. 13 knocked my sort of girlfriend out of sky with a single hard kick. Knees try, I told her. She didn't reply. Trunks, some helps please, I then requested. The Saiyan at least had some fight left in him.
Vegeta's son, who clearly took after his mother, kicked 13 in the throat and punched him multiple times. However, not one of the impressive moves made the big-ass android let go of me.
The red-haired robot then kicked Trunks away and roared. Okay, my turn, I decided. I twisted my body so that my feet were planted on his chest. Then I began to pull with my arms while pushing with my feet. Android 13 laughed like a madman as I did my best to get free. You're tough for a redneck reject, I said. 13 was about to reply, but he was powerful interrupted with a kick to the back of his head. That amused me. Listen, we can't win like this, 18 was now saying to Trunks. We'll have to attack him at the same time. That sounded like a plan. Only it didn't really work out that well. Even their combined efforts had little effect. Ha 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 ha. 13 laughed maniacally. I had one thing to try before doing something really desperate. Trunks, call your friends, I called out as 13, and I tried to find out whose arms were more durable. Call Goku. Heck, I'd take Vegeta's help right now. Him at least I could handle. How, I don't see a telephone around here, was Trunks' reply. I was getting annoyed now. Don't you have a mobile phone? I inquire. At this point my arms were getting very sore. 13 was intentionally drawing this out in order to make me suffer. What is a mobile phone? Trunks asked. The Saiyan was currently trying to suffocate 13 by putting an arm around the large android's neck. Only it wasn't having much of an effect. Nothing seemed to. It's a phone that as you can use anywhere, I explained while still struggling, and it's small enough to fit in your pocket. 18 then came back and tried to free me from 13's grasps by attacking the big android's arms. She didn't have much more luck than before. How can you not have a mobile phone? I asked Trunks. You have cyborgs and flying cars, but you don't have mobiles. How does that work? Assuming I got out of this alive, I was going to fix that problem. This is so not the time, 18 pointed out. She was right about this. Oh, screw it. I shouted, everyone give me some space. That they did. KO connects. I called out. I'd known that anything less would not be enough, and while KO connects, but my body under a lot of stress, my upgraded form was able to handle it. Android 13 did not fare so well, his arms came right off. Before the blue freak had time to do more than scream, Trunks, 18 and I started to fire a lot of weak blasts, which drove the hick to the ground and brought up a lot of smoke. Did we got him? I asked 16. The voice my head did answer this time, which was good since 13 had no power level, at least not one we could detect. Negative. Android 13 has not been destroyed. The smoke cleared and soon I saw that Super Android 13 was just standing there armless but still dangerous. 18 When he starts flying again you knock him, and then I'll hit the blue bastard with my most powerful shot. I ordered Trunks. You blast him with some weaker shots while I charge up. As they went to action I began to gather energy, and when I was ready I let it loose. Big bang attack. The explosion made it look as if the big blue git had turned into a small sun. Thankfully it didn't last long, and when the dust settled there was nothing left but junk. Android 13 has been destroyed. Oh good, he has gone, I said. We all let out a big breath. So did you blow up the lab you found under the mountain? I then asked the Saiyan 18, and I do need somewhere to live. Trunks was still catching his breath, so it took him a few moments to reply. I guess that would be okay, the purple-haired warrior told me, but I actually came to ask you something. You see, now that my father is back I am returning to the future, and Goku will be going with me to fight the androids in my timeline. So he wants you to stay up at the lookout in case even more androids turn up. I don't know why, but he seems to trust you. Yeah, that whole trust thing was weird, and his reasons for having faith in me were even stranger, but I couldn't complain as I had gotten what I wanted. Well, we do need somewhere to stay, I said. I then turned to 18. What do you want to do? I asked her. She shrugged her shoulders before speaking.
That's fine by me, she said, just as long as I can get a new jacket.
We'd have to steal some replacement clothes as neither of us had any money. Tell who's ever in charge up there that we'll be there soon, I instructed the time traveler. The saying didn't he say anything, he just flew off. Which was surprising as things between us were strained, what with me having killed his dad. Okay, so shopping now, demanded 18. Well, it wasn't really shopping, it was more like robbing, but I was fine with it. Besides, I needed some new clothes as well. I'd made a mess of mine during the short but intense fight with Android 13. I hope we never have to fight another machine ever again, I said to 18 as we headed for the nearest settlement. It's never any fun. As 18 and I wandered around the lookout, I wondered how long it would be before the heroes of this world decided that we didn't need to be babysat. I hadn't brought the excuse about there being other androids for very long, as it was clear that we were up here so we couldn't get into any trouble.
Not that it really mattered, as Goku and his son were at home, so I've decided to leave, then no one could stop me.
Maybe if Vegeta had been here, he along with Trunks would have a decent chance of making me stay, but the pissy prince had taken his spaceship and left this planet. I suspected that he would return one day ready for a rematch after doing some intense training somewhere out in the universe. Knowing this made me want to start some proper training, but until 18 and I earned at least a little trust, I didn't want to ask about using the hyperbolic time chamber. What is the problem? I asked the purple-haired guy as we walked over to where I was standing. You have something on your mind. I can tell. Trunks hesitated at first, but he got around to talking before long. Do you know anything about Cell? He inquired. I thought about that abomination before answering the question. Less than you do, I replied. I know that he drank people and wanted to absorb 18 like he did 17, but that's about it. As it turned out, that wasn't the only query the young man had. What about any other androids Drive Jero tried to make? He asked. I just shook my head. I hadn't even known about 13 until this morning, so I was no help. Why do you wanna know? 18 then inquired. You've been in Jero's lab. You've seen what he was working on. Since I had very few memories of the place, I had no idea what the Mad Doctor had been up to, aside from making androids and cyborgs. When I destroyed the lab, I never thought that anything other than you guys could have survived, Trunks then said. I'd forgotten that the Saiyan warrior had tried to murder me upon our first meeting. Lucky for him, I found it easy to forgive and to understand the action when I considered what the me in the other timeline had done. Hold on a second, I said before asking a question of my own. If Cell was made by Drive Jero, then why didn't he consume the 17 and 18 in the future? If we were stronger in this universe, then I doubted that the 17 and 18 in that world could have stopped that abomination from eating them. After all, the 17 I'd known hadn't been able to protect himself. To be honest, I don't a clue, Trunks replied. Something aren't the same here. I mean, there was no Android 16 in my timeline. That didn't make sense, at least not until I thought about it. If the Goku in your world died, then maybe that version of Jero never bothered to finish 16 or Cell, I figured. He had nearly died in this timeline due to a heart virus. What really worries me is that the Cell we faced was also from the future, Trunks then said, which means he might be from my timeline. Hearing that made me think some more. So shouldn't there be a Cell native to this world too? I wondered. The very idea scared me. No, we destroyed that Cell, Trunks told me. That was good news. So are you worried that when you go back to future, the Cell that died here will be there to steal your time machine and come back? Was my next question. Even saying that gave me a headache, which was partly a good thing, as it meant that my brain was still mostly organic. Yes, that's another reason why I want to take Goku back with me, Trunks explained, but it also encouraging, as Cell would only come to the past if the androids in the future weren't around for him to consume. That kinda made sense. At least as much as any of this did. Maybe 17 and me are just a lot stronger in your world, my sort of girlfriend reasoned, and Cell couldn't kill them. That wasn't impossible. No, that's not it, disagreed Trunks. If anything, you're stronger than the androids in my time. I resisted the urge to yell.
We re-cyborgs, I corrected. Androids are pure machines, but we re-humans with mechanical parts, not robots.
The Saiyan didn't he reply. Hey guys, are we getting along? A woman called Bulma then asked us. Her son turned to face his mother. To an extent, Trunks said. That was a fair assessment of the situation. What were you talking about just now? The woman with the odd hair queried. Now that I'd met both of his parents, I could tell that Trunks favored his mother in everything other than fighting ability. Cell, I said. That subject was apparently one she also wished to discuss. I could tell as her eyes seemed to light upon when I mentioned that monster. Come on, I have something to show you, she said to all of us. We followed the woman into one of the buildings, and inside there was a table that was laden with plans and bits of tech. These are blueprints I found in Drive Jero's lab. Bulma told us from them I found out that he called his special project Cell. It was clearly the same creature as the body on the drawing definitely matched. Also, I wondered why the mad scientist had chosen to call the monster by such a simple name. So it really was made by Drive Jero 18 said. Given how unlike Cell the rest of the madman's creations were, it was understandable that people might not believe we all had the same maker. But what is it? Trunks then asked. I know it as an android, but I was able to sense lots of different energies when it was around. I'd have to take his word for that, as while I did have some sort of energy sensing talent, it was rather vague, more of a feeling than a sense. Out of all us androids, only 16 had been able to detect Cell. Well, it wasn't really an android, the woman was now saying. It was actually made up of lots of different people. Jero somehow got his hands on the DNA of Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, someone called King Cold, Tien, Piccolo, even Krillin. That was a lot of DNA. No wonder sensing Cell was so confusing, Trunks said. In my view, nothing about Cell had been normal.
Then there's 21 here, the woman went on to say. Aside from a lot of machine parts, he has DNA from Goku, Piccolo, Cooler, someone called Broly, and that King Cold person again.
I had no idea who this King Cold was, but I did know who Frieza was, as I had files on that guy. 16 might have more information, but he was keeping his non-existent mouth shut. Cold was the other alien, Trunks explained. He was with Frieza when I first came to the past. I've never heard of anyone called Broly. I'd have find out who this Broly was someday. U18 has a little alien DNA too, the clever lady said, but just saying, and you'll never guess who it's from. I had a horrible feeling that I knew. It wasn't too hard to figure out given the look Bulma was giving her son. From you, Trunks, we all soon found out. I guess Jero must have collected some of your hair from the battle you had with Frieza. None of that had been exactly helpful, but hearing it had told me one thing. On the plus side, it means we're not related in any way, I said to 18. That had been worrying for a moment, and also it meant I shared no DNA with the prideful prince. That made me very happy. Well, are there any more androids we should worry about? Trunks asked. Clearly he wanted to change the subject. The clever woman shook her head.
No, we looked all around the lab after I found 13's blueprints. If there were any other androids, we would have found them. She told us there was nothing left, but I think we should make sure no one else can use the place to make any more androids.
This time I couldn't help myself. Cyborgs! I half shouted. Again my outburst was ignored, so I got back to the matter at hand. 18 and I need somewhere to live, I said, and one day I would like to give 16 a new body, so I might as well start studying electronics. A lab seems like a good place to do that. My inner voice spoke this time. That would be appreciated. I imagined it would be. Line break. As we flew towards what was left of Jero's lab, I couldn't help but notice that my fellow cyborg looked somewhat distracted. Hey 18. I called out. The blonde cyborg turned her head to face me. What? She asked. I frowned in concern. You alright? I inquired. 18 turned her head away from me. I am fine was all she said. My guess was that she was thinking about her recently departed brother. If they wished back all the people Cell killed, then there's a chance that 17 is out there somewhere, I said. We couldn't be sure as technical he hadn't been killed by that monster. He defused with Sal, therefore he had still be alive in some sense just as 16 lived inside me. Okay, so why are we going to live in a lab? 18 suddenly asked. Apparently Trunks wasn't the only one who liked to avoid talking about certain things. Weren't you paying attention? I said we're going to live in a lab so I can figure out how to make 16 a new body. That was when I realized that I hadn't taken into account what she wanted. Well, I am going to stay there. I rectified. You're free to do whatever you want to do. She gave me an annoyed glare. Of course I am sticking with you, she said. Where else can I go? Finding the entrance to the lab that had been hidden below two others wasn't hard, as 16 had decided to inform me of my different kinds of senses. I had something that allowed me to detect metal, and that led me to the sub-lab. Do you even know anything about building androids? 18 inquired. That I did not. Nope, I admitted, but since we cyborgs don't sleep or eat, I have plenty time for research. Plus I had an AI in my head. That had to help. I guess that was the supercomputer that Jero downloaded his brain into, I said, as we found a big machine that someone had wrecked or uploaded or whatever. Me saying that made it clear how much I still had a lot to learn about artificial life forms. First, I think we should talk about our relationship, 18 said. Naturally, I decided to use humor as a defense mechanism. We have a relationship? I mock questioned. That got me a slap around the head, and somehow, despite our vast differences in power, the smack hurt. Which didn't surprise me, as annoyed women of any kind seemed to gain super strength. It's not like we have a choice, she pointed out. I am programmed to want you, and since you upgraded, you must feel the same. The attraction was there, but I could ignore it. And it's not like you have a lot of other choices, she then said. Who else can keep up with you? There was that whole Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex issue for me to consider. Given how strong I was now, if I lost control, I could end up killing any human sexual partner. I had no idea how the other powered people in this world handled that issue, and I didn't know any of them well enough to ask them about it. At least with 18 that wouldn't be a problem, as she was extremely durable, and far more importantly than anything else, she seemed to be willing. We need some alone time, 18 went on to say, and I don't want us to get to know each other in Jero's sub-basement. Thankfully I had a solution prepared. That's not going to be a problem, I told my fellow cyborg. There a place on the lookout where time move very quickly. A year inside it equals a day on the outside. If I get us in, then we'll have 365 days together within 24 hours. By the end of it, we'll either have killed each other or be madly in love. Since she was also part Saiyan, I figured she was strong enough to handle the time chamber. It was worth the risk, as we did both need to get stronger, as I figured that in the future we'd face dangers even more deadly than us. It was a good plan, but 18 managed to make it sound very scary. You know, we might be ready to get engaged by then, she said with a slight smile, unless you know me so much that I blast you into pieces. I didn't know which I was rooting for now. That didn't seem to be a big deal here when you could be wished back to life by some dragon as balls. And since I could last for thousands of years, then marriage was a very big commitment. Let us just see how it goes, I replied. 18 just turned and walked away, and when she turned around to give me a half smile, I knew I was in trouble. Author note. Okay, voting time again. Do you want a 21 to face Cooler or Broly next? Or I could do both. So Goku, couldn't you persuade each person else to sign up for us? Oolong, the speaking pig, requested, like Vegeta or Trunks. Goku turned into too busy ingesting to answer right away. He ate quite a lot, in fact, that if he'd been human I figured that his belly would have ruptured with the aid of now. I could handiest expect that his ability to consume such enormous quantities of food became a Saiyan aspect. Trunks has long passed Back to the Future, the fighter defined, and Vegeta took off in his own ship. Would became an awesome thing due to the fact of the beautiful excuse where a prince and I had each ended up in this spacecraft. One of us would have blown everything up with the aid of nine. And try and murder the opposite. Jin and Chaozu Goku went on to say they are within the room of time and spirit doing some extreme training. Optimistically soon I'd get a danger to enter that terrific region. Despite the fact that it handiest did a fraction for me what it had achieved for Saiyans, it might be properly really worth spending a year of my lifestyles inside the time chamber. I concept that time and area chamber became too risky for human beings, I said to Goku. The hero swallowed some greater meals earlier than answering. Now they will be okay, he then said. They educated on King Kai's planet. That didn't he surely answer my question, however the verbal exchange moved on earlier than I should discover greater. What about 18? The speaking pig then requested me, why isn't he always she here? In general it changed into due to the fact she didn't he like any of these humans. She said that during an alien global became a boyish component I informed every person, plus she desired to perform a little woman stuff. Each person standard that as the reality. Which it in part turned into as 18 did plan to hang out with Bulma, who his father had taken a liking to my idea, approximately cellular phones. He become going to invent them and percentage the profits. 18 wanted to hold an eye on the undertaking. I figured that she changed into involved that I was going to get ripped off. I had know what Bulma was getting out of this new located friendship, and considering girls by no means made any experience to me, I didn't hassle to strive figuring it out. Properly, the lost, said Krillin as he spoke. The tiny warrior reached out to grab the remaining rice ball on the equal time as grasp Roshi did. This started out a tugging suit, which only ended while the old martial arts master picked up his cane and slapped Krillin upside his head with it. Even as that changed into occurring, I spent my time envying folks who ought to consume and get a few sleep. If nothing else, the ones things had been excellent distractions, and I could have completed with some of those because it turned out space travel changed into sincerely quite dull. Even supposing Goku's space deliver, which velocity were stepped forward upon, took days to get to New Namek. Nevertheless, the journey turned into almost over now as the planet turned into most effective 20 minutes away, which supposed we should be capable of see it very quickly. Whoa, I heard Gohan whisper.
I stood up and went to the window to find out what it turned into that had Goku's son so transfixed.
Seeing it for myself, didn't he provide an explanation for something, as I had no know-how of what I was seeing? Are there two planets? Requested Yamcha. The other aspect that I had no label for was now not a planet that a great deal I was certain about. Yeah, and the smaller one appears to be trying to consume the larger one. Krillin stated. Now that I had some time to look at, regardless of the element become, I figured it regarded extra like a illness the planet turned into laid low within place of a separate item. However, that turned into just a guess. I do not know what it as far we dealing with Goku stated, but I do not think it's friendly, and the simplest way we going to discover for sure is by means of happening there for a better look.
He sounded assured sufficient. And whilst I ought to damage whole planets if I wished to, I were given the feeling that this factor, regardless of the hell it came about to be,
wasn't he going to be smooth to damage?
Line damage, as quickly because the deliver landed we took a look around and it have become clear that New Namek had been conquered.
The invaders, a force made up of dozens or perhaps even loads of robots, had been dragging the extraterrestrial beings off someplace. I failed to suppose it is able to probably be everywhere fun. Then while we had been close sufficient to look details, we noticed that one of the Namekians become currently attacking a robot. The alien changed into fast, but the metallic invader snatched him from the air and tossed the green-skinned being to the floor without a good deal hassle. Then the robotic aimed a weapon on the wounded alien. The system fired, but the blast became knocked away from its goal by means of Gohan, and the child changed into quickly joined at the ground by means of the rest people. I am handiest going to mention this once stated Goku go away this planet now. In some way I failed to suppose that the robots have been going to simply percent up and get off this global, but the Saiyan changed into the honorable type, so he needed to at least give the awful men a chance to run away. The Namekian race isn't years to overcome. Piccolo, then known as Out. Nicely they appeared conquered to me, but I made no remark approximately that. Yeah, shouted Oolong. Despite the volume of his voice, the pig quick moved to hide behind Yajirobe, who was now not a splendid meat protect given that he became only a guy. Yuri outgunned. Yamcha then stated you'll want an entire army. At this factor 12 greater robots dropped out of the sky and aimed their sci-fi weapons at us. I am supplying you with all one final danger.
Stated Goku, leave now, or it is the scrap heap for you that turned into wind that kicked back to my backbone, and that I knew that something some distance extra effective than a load of tin cans with guns became close by.
Even if my Cyclopean guards may want to say something, do you truly suppose they would obey you? A voice requested. Goku at once recognized the steel figure that had regarded. Cooler? Goku shouted in alarm.
So this changed into Cooler. He didn't appear to be in any manner natural, which made me marvel how I had some of this dude's DNA. I ought to handiest anticipate that he hadn't constantly been made out of something so vivid.
However, he is useless. Piccolo called out. Krillin took a step lower back and Gohan was shaking. Truly they all met this cooler fella earlier then, and it become additionally obvious that they feared him. I should be lifeless, Cooler said, but destiny intervened, giving me a 2D chance to kill you. After a bit of silence, the robots attacked Scatter. Piccolo shouted. The tiny fighter, Krillin, was right now grabbed and thrown right into a plateau earlier than I could do anything to assist him. Now not that I was precisely inspired to resource any of them, as only Goku appeared to love me that a good deal. Krillin! Yelled Yamcha. Before the fellow with the scars ought to rush to resource the bald guy, his manner became blocked through 3 of the robots. The human warrior fired a blast of key electricity. Lamentably it had little effect. Oh excellent, I'll help, I muttered. I landed on top of one of the machines and drove it into the floor tough sufficient that it shattered into pieces. Then I span immediately and kicked the 2 other robots so tough that they ended up impacting some close by rock formations. I didn't recognize if that destroyed them, however I figured that I would even up the chances enough that the mere people wouldn't die so quickly. Then I took a go searching. I noticed that Piccolo and Gohan had been capable of do extra than deal with themselves, or at the least that become the case until the machines started out to work collectively. The robots all fought as a team, which made me suspect that have been being managed via the effective computer that was distance away as an alternative through then some kind of inner C2. How the 16 are those robots linked to a community through any risk? I asked. An answer wasn't long in coming. Affirmative, I smiled. See if you mess it up, I said, you already know, jam it or hack it or something. I used to be reminded then about my want to examine more approximately era. Running, if 16 anything else to say, I couldn't have enough money to concentrate as this turned into after I saw that Piccolo changed into about to get blasted into portions. Considering the fact that I wanted to earn the belief of Earth's defenders, if handiest so they depart me on my own, I determined to help him out. To this I formed spheres of key power, one in every hand, after which I blew up more than 1 robots. I am not able to disrupt the network, nicely that disappointing, however it wasn't too traumatic as the tide of struggle turned into already turning in opposition to the robots. Then I became my eye upon the large bad to see what that steel man turned into up to. Son Goku and Cooler have been nonetheless looking at every different in overall silence, however the floor around them was starting to disintegrate. Their anger for each different changed into plain to beer, and so became the reality that they were both accumulating a whole lot of electricity. Due to the fact I knew the complete powering up component could take some time, I was capable of spend some moments checking on all people else. But not before I trashed more than 1 robots who had decided that I was now a valid target. While I used to be loose, my interest grew to become to grasp Roshi and Yajirobe, who presently handiest had 3 robots to fear approximately. My intention in the beginning had been to rush in and keep them, only now I wanted to look what they could do, so I stopped myself. Grasp Roshi used what I guessed to a pressure factor method. One of the robots really fell aside and ended up littering the ground. Yajirobe used his sword and targeted all his electricity into one curb. This act cut the second robotic in half. Eventually I blasted the third device because it had been within the method of grabbing the speaking pig. Gothic arise right here, I need help. Piccolo known as out. Due to the fact that he did not name me 21, I decided that he de-earned my aid. Be there in a second, I answered. As I moved I noticed Piccolo take off his weighted turban and cape, earlier than he became to Goku's brat. No extra preserving again, the inexperienced man ordered. It do appear silly that they now not committed the whole thing they had to the battle, but it turned into absolutely a totally smart element to do, as regardless of how powerful they have become, all of them had a limited quantity of power. So maintaining again on the begin meant that they had reserves to name upon later have to their enemy proved to be more effective than predicted, or in case have to their foes have backup. This was one of the instances while the entire backup factor proved to be a problem. Even more robots have been turning up. Perhaps even too many for us to address, at the least no longer without taking some losses. That was once I sensed something, and that I became to look that Goen's hair was turning gold, and that his eyes were now sparkling inexperienced. He changed into going remarkable Saiyan, and judging by the sheer amount of strength I could experience, he become additionally going for a first-rate Saiyan too. The kid changed into not messing approximately. Help someone else known as. I grew to become to look Krillin, who turned into subsidized into a noob viaduct extra than 10 of the killer robots you pass a system, Piccolo stated to me Goen, and I will address the relaxation of this drash. I absolutely wanted an amazing fight now, and taking up an entire military of system minions appeared like fun. But having Krillin owe me his existence might be a good aspect, must I want a favor someday. First rate, I said in short order. I attacked the 10 robots. Hello you steel bastards! I shouted. As I moved I noticed the tiny fighter feed the robots. He was courageous, however every blow he made had little to no effect. Even when Yamcha jumped and he just were given slapped to the floor, and because the scarred fighter attempted to recover, another robotic kicked him within the ribs. I grabbed that robotic and crushed its cranium with my bare fingers earlier than kicking its frame into the air. Subsequent I blasted the alternative droids, in order that the ones left became to attack me. I defeated them in short, and I found everything to be a long way too clean. What's up buddy, the way you doing? I heard Krillin ask his friend, are your ribs damaged? Earlier than the other fighter could answer, the bald guy become handing over one of those magic beans, all of them used for short recovery. I desire I was lower back home, but thanks for asking, Yamcha responded. Judging through the way they spoke to each other, it was obvious that they have been friends for a long time. I so satisfied I am now not the only one who thinks that. Krillin said with amusing. So what now? Piccolo and Golden Gohan landed subsequent to us, and they each regarded as a substitute, worried about something. We got were given incoming, the inexperienced guy warned. I could not sense the machines, but I had eyes, so I was as a minimum able to see them coming. They landed in corporations of 3, and quite quickly there had been greater than 30 of factors standing before us. Then they commenced to arrive in agencies of 30, so I figured that we might quickly be fighting loads of robots at this rate. Extremely good, there's extra of them. Whimpered Krillini. For one, wasn't he worried? Okay, anybody have a plan? I said. Someone wishes to fly over them and distract the robots at the same time as the rest of use the Kamehameha. It changed into the most effective way we might be capable of take out hundreds of the warfare machines before they crushed even me. Let me be the diversion, the inexperienced man insisted. That labored for me, and as quickly the robots were all seeking to blast Piccolo out of the sky. At the same time as this become going on, the relaxation folks charged up, and shortly a tidal wave of ki energy washed the robots away. While everyone else rushed off to go save the inhabitants of this planet, from whatever nasty fate it was the robots had dragged them off to, I decided to stick around in order to watch Goku and Cooler duke it out. Gohan might have stayed too, as he could make a difference in his father's fight, but Master Roshi, the pig, and the guy with the sword had been dragged off by some of the robots, so someone powerful needed to go save them. Scanning. 16 was becoming distracting as he said that a number of times already, and I had no idea what he was scanning for or why. Every time I asked about it, he said nothing in reply. I really need to get you a body of your own, I muttered. When I focused again on the fight once more, I saw Cooler try to kick the Saiyan away, but Goku just flew up into the air so as to avoid the blow. Then Cooler followed him up into the air, and once up there the metal alien parried any punch or kick that Goku sent his way. At least until the Saiyan figured out what part of his body that Cooler had left unguarded. Which, as it turned out, was the bad guy's tail. The defender of the earth grabbed the villainous tail and then used to spin Cooler around. Like a record baby, right round, I said to myself. Not long after he was let go, Cooler swiftly uprighted himself in mid-air, somehow, and charged towards Goku, who had taken the brief window to go all golden. Now that both his speed and might had greatly increased, the hero was able to stroke his foe with a blow that sent the shiny guy flying to the ground. Scanning. Now you finally stopped wasting my time, Cooler said. I got the impression that the bad guy had been waiting for Goku to go all super before showing off his own full power. This was soon proven when the big bad charged up a massive ball of energy and hurled it at his enemy. The ball hit the ground and detonated in a blinding flash.
For a second I wondered if the only being on Earth stronger than me was now dead, and this did not make me happy as it meant that I was the only person around who had a chance of stopping Cooler.
I really didn't want that kind of pressure. I didn't think you had time to dodge, I heard the villain say. Floating in the air, a dozen or so meters behind Cooler was a confident-looking Goku. It has called instant transmission, the hero explained. Cooler turned around to face his foe, and even at this distance I could tell that he was smiling. I know, said Cooler in a matter-of-fact voice. It has one of my favorite techniques. That did not sound good. What? Asked a confused-sounding Goku. Scanning. I ignored 16 and watched as Cooler teleported himself behind Goku and kneed the good guy in the spine. I knew it was some form of teleporting because I hadn't been able to track the moves, and normally I had no problem with that sort of thing. Next, Cooler teleported in front of Goku and kicked him square in the face. Thankfully, a Super Saiyan was not an easy being to destroy, so the golden-haired warrior was able to recover quickly. The two mortal enemies both started to use their teleporting ability against each other. Just from watching, I knew that Cooler had the upper hand of experience with this technique. Scanning, 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 scanning. Okay, I get it, you re-scanning them, I said to 16. I now understood why people with voices in their heads went mad. Instant transmission is now available. It took me a moment to process that, and then I needed a little more time to deal with the information flooding my brain. Once I had done that, I found that 16 had been able to figure out how the teleporting trick was done by scanning the two beings who were using the ability. Which meant I now knew how to do it myself. Oh 16, you are the best. I called out. Affirmative. My attention was then diverted to Goku, who was now reaching his ascended Super Saiyan state, or Super Saiyan 2 as it was also known. Which was good, as Goku had been having a hard time against the Metal Menace, who wasn't holding back at all, I figured. When the transformation was done, the tide of battle changed.
A kick to the side by Cooler was effortlessly parried by Goku, who went on to headbutt the bad guy, and that was followed up more punches and kicks than even I was able to track.
Let us end this, the hero declared. The Super Saiyan 2 flew towards his enemy, who instinctively put his guard up, but this was meaningless as Goku tore through Cooler's body like it was nothing more than paper. Cooler was understandably surprised by this, and then it was Goku's turn to be shocked when he watched in horror as the bad guy started regenerating. Kamehameha! The Saiyan's attack wasn't fast enough. Cooler was able to fix himself and then dodge the attack. Now that I have seen your limits, there is no longer any reason to delay your death, the evil metal being said. I cursed under my breath upon hearing that. Cooler had just been playing with Goku in order to find out how well matched they were. The bad guy was much faster and stronger than even a Super Saiyan 2. Which Cooler proved when he grabbed Goku by the neck and started to squeeze the life out of the hero. "I've waited so long for this," said the laughing villain. That was when I decided to interfere. A well-aimed energy blast by me forced the baddie to drop Goku. As entertaining as this has been to watch, I told Cooler killing Goku is something that I cannot allow you to do. Well, I could, but I figured that Cooler would target Earth if allowed to live, so it was best to deal with the shiny get now with Goku at my side rather than fight him all alone later on. "Thanks, Gothic," the hero said. Cooler laughed and dusted himself off. "Well, you're no monkey," the bad guy started to say. "I didn't give Metal Man a chance to insult me."
I'd had enough of that sort of thing from Vegeta, so I kicked Cooler in what passed for his gut, and that at least made the metal monster stagger backwards.
That move was followed with 2 punches to the thing's face. However, since I knew that I wasn't strong enough to do any real damage, I greatly increased my power. "Kaioken X!" I shouted. Then I teleported above Cooler and drove my elbow into what passed for the thing's skull. I wasn't sure who was more hurt by that attack, but I remained focused enough to keep fighting the bad guy. Which was proven by the fact that I was already aiming a kick. Had it connected, it would have done some harm, but the metal monster was somehow able to catch my leg, and then he started to squeeze. I could still feel pain, so it was not a pleasant experience. Luckily for me, Goku kicked the bad guy away before much damage was done, and when I tried to verbally express my thanks for his assistance, the hero vanished. "Alright, instant transmission," I muttered. The next thing I saw was Goku tackle the evil Cooler to the ground. Then they both disappeared, only to appear again close by as they traded more blows.
I figured that I would need a lot of practice teleporting before I was ready to fight like they did, so I conserved my energy and waited for my moment to strike.
"If I live through this, I am doing so much training," I promised myself.
Goku's power level wasn't that much higher than my own, so it wasn't the energy he could call upon which made so much difference.
He was simply far more talented than me. Plus, unlike Vegeta, he wasn't so prideful. That I was sure made a big difference as well.
I put those thoughts aside and focused again on the fight as Goku hit Cooler so hard that when the metal thing landed on the ground, the whole world shook and cracks appeared beneath my feet.
Then something odd happened. Rather than take off into the sky so that he could carry on the fight, the bad guy ran away. Goku quickly pursued the villain, and I thought this was very foolish as the odd behavior of Cooler hinted at there being a trap. As it turned, there wasn't any sort of trap, so I was confused to say the least, but I stopped thinking about what when I saw Goku lunge as he reached for Cooler with one hand. Once the Saiyan had caught this prey, he began to wail on the bad guy with fists of fury.
Sadly for the golden-haired warrior, he couldn't keep up that level of butt-kicking for very long, and when slowed down, Cooler caught one of his punch and then Metal Guy hit back. Cooler hit the alien warrior so hard that the fighter was sent flying. Then the evil dude then did a follow-up attack. Cooler kicked Goku in the back, and when that happened, it sounded as if a thunderstorm had started. Kaioken X. Knowing that I needed to help right now, I dove into the fight and I hit Cooler as hard as I could, only nothing happened. Somehow the metal get had become far more durable. It was as if he was growing stronger during the fight rather than weaker. Cooler turned to me and attempted to backhand me, but I was able to jump out of the way in time. Then I saw Goku as he rushed to face this rather scary foe of ours. "I've had enough," the Saiyan called out. Goku completely destroyed Cooler's left arm as he blurred past the two of us. The villain stood there for a second until something happened. Wire emerged from his left shoulder and soon the cable began to form something. The wire transformed themselves into the shape of an arm. Then the sleek metal Cooler had for skin began to cover the newly rebuilt limb. Perhaps I should have explained earlier, the bad guy, you see, my body is monitored constantly by the Big Jet Star's main computer. Any injury I might suffer is instantly detected and repaired. Which explained why he had been able to put himself back together when Goku had completely trashed him earlier. And any flaws in my design that allowed the injury to take place are corrected. Cooler then informed us. It is quite remarkable, really. That told us why he was more durable now.
In simple terms, this means you can win, Cooler said. Well, it did seem that way. Then I'll just have to try harder. Goku replied. My thinking was to destroy the star thing, but since I had no way of doing that without destroying the whole planet, that wasn't really an option. Oh, by all means try, Cooler retorted. Then Cooler suddenly disappeared and then reappeared as he hit Goku in the stomach. Next, Cooler spun around and smacked my sort of friend with his tail. As Goku spun around, the bad guy kneed him in the ribs. I would have tried to help, but as fast as I was, I'd barely been able to follow those moves, never mind react to them. Still, I knew I had to try to help. I rushed at Cooler as I could only hope that he was too focused on the Saiyan to see me coming. My plan failed. Cooler didn't even turn to me as his tail to swat me my aside. KO connects. I screamed. The bad guy once more tried to sweep me aside in a single gesture, but this time my speed was far greater than before and I was able to avoid the blow. The same couldn't be said for the evil metal alien as my fist met his face, and he was worse off for it. Sadly, my efforts were totally in vain as Cooler's body simply repaired whatever damage I did to it. This way he was able to endure my assault long enough to find a moment to counterattack. Which happened when the strain of the Kaioken upon my body became too much to endure. Cooler kneed me in the gut, and I felt myself being tossed aside like I was nothing more than a piece of trash. It was both painful and humiliating. And now for the moment I've dreamt of for so long, I heard Cooler say. I assumed that was Goku's death, but the Saiyan warrior was not ready to die just yet. Unfortunately for himself and everyone else, his efforts to protect himself didn't amount to much. Goodbye, Super Saiyan, Cooler said. As I managed to stand up, I saw someone kick Cooler in the face. Soon I discovered that it was Vegeta who had delivered the blow, and for once I was actually happy to see the prince. You'll spill no Saiyan blood today, Vegeta said, but feel free to give the upstart microwave over there a good thrashing. I was now getting mad enough to keep fighting. You are such a dick, I said to Vegeta. He ignored me, which was rude. What's this? Cooler said, sounding interested. Is there a second so-called Super Saiyan? If Gohan and Trunks counted, then there were actually 4. Although neither of them were here, so that didn't mean anything right now. Second in order perhaps, but by no means in stature, Vegeta replied. Dying had not tempered his pride, it seemed. Your fight is with me now, the prince declared. Cooler chuckled at Vegeta's comment. Super Saiyans, yes, but monkeys all the same, Cooler said. So not only was the bad guy a totally jerk, he was also a racist. That was no reason to rip him apart. We'll see about that, Vegeta replied. The short Saiyan then charged at Cooler head on, but this was for naught as the metal gut lunged forward and punched Vegeta in the face. Well, that didn't last for very long, I muttered to myself. Vegeta flew past Goku as the taller warrior got ready to do battle. Only before he could fight, the prince flew back to face Cooler once again. This time Vegeta had more success. The first blow knocked the metal bad guy off his feet, and as Cooler fell over, Vegeta kicked him in the head so hard I would have sworn that I heard something break. Again, this didn't accomplish much as Cooler quickly recovered and grabbed Vegeta's leg. The evil alien went on to crush the limb as he had tried to do with me not that long again. It looked extremely painful. I then watched Cooler smiled as energy slowly began to emerge from the palm of his hand, and I figured that Vegeta's face was going to be blown off by that attack. That was when Goku leaped into action. He flew forward and kicked Cooler in the face. Both of them went flying and Cooler's energy blast missed its target. Much to my heartfelt disappointment. Enough. A pissed off prince yelled, I will not be beaten, not again. Cooler and Goku had to stare up at the short Saiyan as they were on the ground. Vegeta then fired a point-blank blast at Cooler and Goku. I wasn't prepared for the power the Eviler Saiyan put into the attack, and I was knocked on my ass. When I managed to get up, I looked for Vegeta, so I could kill him again, only Cooler had gotten to him first. I attempted to attack the bad guy while he was focused on the prince, only at the last moment the metal villain turned around and fired a focus beam at me that came from the tip of his finger. There was a sudden burst of intense pain in my chest, and then mercifully everything went dark. As I opened my eyes, I saw that I was inside some place I didn't recognize. Also, it was a dark space, but this hardly mattered as I had a sort of night vision thing going on. Everything was a different shade of blue and things were tricky to make out, but at least I could see a few things.
While I was looking around, I could not fail to notice that were wires all over my body, and elsewhere, as I was able to feel them on my face.
In fact, I was being suspended in the air by some wires. Then I saw that Goku and Vegeta were also tied up on the other side of the large room, and as far as I could tell they weren't awake. Still, it was hard to tell due to the darkness, so I decided to pose a question in order to find out if they could reply. "What is going on?" I asked. Neither of them replied. "Welcome to the Big Jeet Star," Cooler said. This didn't look like no star to me. I figured that I was inside some giant machine. "Cooler, where are you?" Goku asked. I looked around and tried to find him. At this I failed. A difficult question to answer. Cooler said before sort of answering, "In one sense I am everywhere around you." That was very unhelpful. "But I suppose what you are looking for is right here in front of your eyes," Cooler then said to us. When I switched back to normal vision, I saw a light in the corner of the room that grew in brightness. "What?" Goku inquired. Soon I found what looked to be a big head that was also attached to everything by wires. The voice had come from the thing. I hadn't been able to see it in any detail until now, so I assumed it was just another part of the huge machine we were trapped in. "Before you die, I shall tell you the story," Cooler said. "Somewhere far in space there existed a single computer chip. It floated for eons among a graveyard of broken spaceships and forgotten satellites. Until one day it began to connect to the other machines. It began to grow from a single chip to a giant machine. That all seemed very unlikely, but this was a fucking weird universe, so I didn't question the tale. At some point what was left of my body, including my brain, was also absorbed," Cooler then told us. "My conscious was merged with the main computer and I took control, so in a sense I am the Big Jeet Star. My ability to fuse with others seemed rather unimpressive now. And using the technology at my disposal, I created a new metal body for myself, a meta Cooler if you will," Cooler said. "Which had been the thing that had kicked all our asses. So what are you going to do with us now?" Goku asked. I somehow knew it would be nothing good. "Well, let us just say that I am going to extract my revenge," Cooler said. Extract was word that I did not like. "What?" Vegeta said. That query was answered when energy began to get pulled from his and Goku's body. It looked extremely painful, so I was glad that it wasn't happening to me. "What delicious irony it is that your energy is going to fuel the destruction of the very planet you were trying to save," Cooler said with glee. I could do nothing. I wasn't able to move and I hated the feeling of being helpless. I was supposed to be the strongest of Jero's creations, yet for all my machine parts and modified DNA I might as well have been nothing at all. Cooler laughed like a maniac as he watched the two Saiyans scream out in what had to be extreme amounts of agony. Then the energy-sucking process came to a sudden end. "To think these Super Saiyans have so much energy anymore and it would exceed my capacity," Cooler was now saying. I thought this was the end, but then suddenly energy spark came from Goku's body. The golden-colored energy traveled up the wires and soon there was a small explosion nearby. "What was that?" Cooler asked. It seemed that the bad guy had bitten off more than he could chew, or in this case more energy than he could absorb. "The circuit is supposed to be closed," Cooler was now saying. "Why does the power keep flowing in?" I had no idea, and I was too busy watching the two Saiyans go extremely golden to care much about what the machine guy had to say. "No, I am past my limits," Cooler said, sounding very shocked. "Stop. Stop." The wires holding all of us retracted, but Goku and Vegeta and grabbed the metal trendiles. Then they somehow funneled even more energy through the wires. That was when I realized that we would all die soon, as this place was going to blow. We had to get out of here if we wanted to live. As luck would have it, an explosion freed me, and after I hit the floor I tried to pick myself. Only I didn't have much luck with it. I can't maintain my hold on the planet. Cooler was now saying. The big bad had underestimated the Super Saiyans. Just as Jero had. Dad. I then heard Gohan cry out. I managed to turn to my side and I saw Krillin, Oolong, Master Roshi, Piccolo, Yamcha and a whole group of the Namekians. I was somewhat happy to see them. Help, I requested. Again I was ignored. Goku. Krillin shouted. I felt very neglected right now. No one seemed to care about me. All of you get out of here as fast as you can. Goku shouted to them. That was stupid, they should rescue me first. Wait, are you sure? Piccolo asked. That was when I sensed danger and I came to understand why the Saiyan wanted his son and his friends to run away. As it turned out, our enemy had not been destroyed. Given the state you Saiyans are in, how do you plan to take care of me? Cooler said to the golden-haired warriors. The big bad was still around, this was not good. You heard him, get out of here. Vegeta yelled. That sounded like a plan, so I rushed towards the nearest exit while avoiding the falling debris. When I found a patch of sky, I jumped and flew out of Star Thing. Once I got high enough, I saw that the big Jeet star was pulling away from the planet. I then turned my attention to the ground as I saw all the Namekians running away. Then I saw Gohan and lesser fighters, so I decided to join them as they grabbed the smaller aliens and carried them to safety. Dad, hurry up. Gohan said desperately. He was the one person that I wasn't worried about. This whole planet could go boom and he would somehow survive, I just knew it. His son didn't think the same, he was worried. Come on, Gohan. I said, we need to get away from that thing. He at least paid attention to me. But Dad is still inside. Gohan replied. If needs be, I de-teleported him away. There is nothing we can do now. I said as I grabbed the kid and teleported him to our ship. Line break. Not long after our escape, we were all gathered at the ship as we stared into the sky. The big Jeet star thing had detached itself from the planet and was trying to escape into space. Only it didn't get far as the so-called star blew up. The explosion was so bright that we had to shield our eyes from the intense light. Goku. Krillin said as he stared up into the sky. I wasn't worried about the hero as I was sure that 16 would have informed me should the Saiyan expire. Where's my dad? Gohan asked. I stared up into the sky as I tried to sense what was going on. It's okay. I said as I tried to comfort Gohan, if anyone could have survived that explosion, it's your dad. The light in the sky slowly died out as all the Namekians and us watched. Then I finally did sense something, and soon after that I saw two figures as they flew down from the sky. Dad. Gohan said happily as he stuck his hands out to the sky. Goku looked exhausted and Vegeta was also worse for wear, so Yajirobe walked up to all of them and gave them both a magic bean. Good thing you brought those Senzu beans after all, Yajirobe. Goku said as he got up. That was when I noticed that the prince was already gone. Hey, where's Vegeta? Goku then asked. I guessed he was already at his ship. Vegeta, he has never really cared much for happy endings. Krillin said. I wasn't that fond of them either. Not because I wanted people to suffer, but because they were often super cheesy. Funny cause I think it's his fault that we have a happy ending in the first place. Goku said as he looked towards the sky. That was kinda of amusing. I have to admit, without Vegeta we would probably all be dead, Piccolo then remarked. While this was true, I would not to it agree verbally. Also, I suspected that the prince had come here for a different reason, although I couldn't imagine what he'd come looking for on this planet. Thank you, Vegeta, we couldn't have done it without you, Goku said next. It was like I hadn't been there at all. Can we go home now? I asked. I had some proper training to do and it was important that I get started as soon as possible. If there were things like Cooler out there, then I needed to become stronger before I would have even a chance at beating them. Within the room of time and space, my girlfriend and I spent our time education. It had taken us weeks to get absolutely used to this area, because it was crazy to say the least. The most effective everyday issue in here changed into the residence. The relaxation turned into nothing greater than a white void that regarded to move on for all time. It had taken me some time to alter to the sheer nothingness around me, and after that I would come to understand why it existed. Within the endless vacancy there have been no distractions, and there has been nowhere to cover from yourself. Particularly mockingly, the vastness of this bizarre region forced a person to look inward. Once a person did that, they located that they the proper region for education. There was nothing here to get in the way of attaining your desires, or as a minimum that was how I noticed things. I imagined that for others the room would possibly imply something else, however that changed into their business. What became positive was that the chamber challenged a person each mentally and bodily.
The way it affected the thoughts was difficult to fully explain. The way it labored on the body became every simpler to understand, yet it became no much less difficult to address.
For starters, there has been the gravity. It becomes so severe right here that at the beginning I might felt as if I would be crushed through the pressure. Then there were things like fast temperature adjustments to cope with, and a few instances I would have sworn that I'd seen things that could not probably be actual. The residence became the best part of this area that changed into safe. In fact, it changed into downright comfortable. Outdoor the home's matters hastily were given worst, the similarly someone got from the door the harsher the surroundings have become. Even cyborgs were in risk right here. With distance the gravity would grow and the temperature variations became a ways more intense.
Hot and bloodless have been changed by way of being set on hard, and then almost being encased in ice.
Then there were the spiders. They had come out of nowhere and had crawled all over me. After that they vanished, but I figured that changed into just me going crazy. From what I'd been told, the chamber reacted to the human beings inside it. So perhaps it did not were so intense for someone else, however I could not believe that everyday people would live on long in here. I had new recognized for the Saiyans just for being able to stroll out this place.
Then there was the dilation effect that occurred within the hyperbolic time chamber. 1 day of real time become equivalent to 12 months within the chamber, or to place it every other manner, 1 minute of actual time turned into approximately 6 hours, 5 minutes.
And 15 seconds whilst inside the room of time and spirit. That was funky to think about. A good way to preserve song of the dilation. There had been 2 large hourglasses redecorating the sides of the constructing that counted down the year in the chamber. A clock on the dome roof of the primary part of the building informed human beings what time it changed into in the actual international. This changed into very essential because even as it turned into possible to depart the chamber before the 12 months changed into up, staying anymore could bring about getting trapped. That meant while it changed into time to move, it became really time to head. I also knew that the chamber may want to only be entered for 2 days in total, and given that some other version of myself had already used the room, it became too risky for me to go into right here again. If everybody ever tried to live longer, they would no longer be capable of exit, leaving them trapped within the nothingness, and this will also result in no person else being capable of use the chamber. Additionally, there have been only sufficient provisions to house people for the entire year, so each person staying longer than that could quickly die anyways. Properly maybe not 18 and myself, as we didn't need meals, however even though we rationed the water it eventually run out, after which we might die.
Goku had damaged this restriction by means of coming into this area 3 instances in total, but he had died, and reputedly this restrict became reset if you came back to life.
Which I would have referred to as unfair if it hadn't worried him dying. Whilst it turned into time to go away, the door became the simplest passageway between the realm of Earth and the hyperbolic time chamber. Or at least it became the handiest manner to journey between those dimensions without ripping holes inside the barrier between dimensions. Which I didn't assume was an amazing concept, as the ultimate time I moved from one reality to any other I would ended up being changed into a cyborg. On the grounds that I didn't need something like that to take place to me again, I used to be even going to try and figure out how that sort of thing may be carried out. This isn't always fair. 18 screamed as her trendy punch soared right beyond me. You are way too speedy. Her comply with upkick nearly hit me inside the head. It came a lot in the direction of hurting me than her fist had. Sadly for her, the flow allowed me to brush her last leg out from below her, which of course knocked her to the solid floor as first. I enjoyed it a long way to a great deal. Oh, now you're lifeless, the lady cyborg promised. As she picked herself up, I subsidized up. A pissed off element robotic lady became now not something a sane man desired to face too close to. You understand, the humorous issue is I am virtually slower than normal, I informed 18. Proper now gravity for us turned into about 10 times more than regular, and that I knew that it was best get greater intensity in addition away we were given from the house. So for now we have been sticking close to buildings. It's hard to inform, the girl cyborg spoke back. Without caution she then released herself at me. She could not fly proper now, but she become in a position jump just quality, so her properly aimed fist came very close to meeting my face. But I was able to teleport now, so by the time her strike could have related I wasn't where she'd been aiming. Now if you assume that was fast, then you definitely need to have visible cooler, I said to 18. He turned into teleporting all around the place. I used to be capable of system things need to faster than a person, but I hadn't had tons success in monitoring cooler S actions. When in comparison to that monster, 18 would possibly as properly had been shifting through trickle. This was actually very useful because it gave me time to come with approaches to counter her attacks and to attempt out new matters, which hadn't been viable while I'd been preventing cooler. 18 became also improving, however she stored letting her feelings dictate her actions.
Not that I used to be one to decide, however, if we have been going to stand the challenges to come back, and that I figured that there could be many, then we both had to grow to be higher fighters.
You already know there are other forms of exercise, the woman cyborg said along with her sexy and a half smile wide on TV cross within the residence. At the same time as I was more potent, quicker, more durable and perhaps even smarter than 18, whilst it came to the bedroom she changed into the champion. We cyborgs had apparently limitless amounts of electricity. The handiest time I felt drained was just after intercourse, as I used to be nevertheless male. 18 alternatively certainly seemed to become similarly energized by way of sex, and she in no way regarded glad doing it just the only time. Luckily I could recharge my sex battery instead quickly. Our file up to now become 10 instances in 24-hour length at the same time as nevertheless education. The handiest reason it wasn't the extra was because aside from sparring I used to be also reading everything to do with robots, cybernetics and preventing strategies. Way to pill course era I were capable of deliver in quite the library. As soon as I were given back to the lab I'd get to work getting 16 his very own body. That couldn't come too quickly, as having a person else in my head become no longer a fun thing. My handiest difficulty become that I would be downgraded via that getting 16's mind out of me.
However, he had assured me that this would not be a situation so long as he left part of his AI behind to manage my technological FaceTime on S16, and that I figured that he could be decreased to something as an alternative like a toddler, and he might be unable to control a big system frame, so my plan changed into to make a brand new cyborg.
Quantity 22. His new body would be made from both metal and residing tissue. Not simply human flesh, both. He could be component alien like me.
Only now not as robust as I used to be, because I would not be capable of get clean samples from likes of Frezia and his own family, and that I failed to assume the aliens living right here on Earth might need me making more cyborgs out in their DNA, so I might need to use mine in 18s.
Assuming she consented. The frightening element there was that this will in some respects make the reborn android 16 our son. Which turned into why I hadn't but stated the whole details of my plan to 18. Having a baby collectively was a massive dedication after all, and we weren't even that devoted to each, or at the least I wasn't. I figured 18 became already planning the wedding. Permit us educate a bit more and then we can relax, I stated to my fellow cyborg. My fellow cyborg did the cute factor along with her hair before she responded. Oh pleasant, she agreed. I then spent a moment thinking about what to do subsequent. Honestly, my female friend wasn't powerful sufficient to help me get more potent, and until she stepped forward, I would advance either, so I figured that it changed into better to focus on her schooling at least for a while. Hey, here's an idea. I said. I will throw some key balls round, and all you need to do is blast them out of the air. Key strength might be utilized in many ways. Both internally and externally, the maximum easy offensive flow become a right-away key blast, which changed into what 18 turned into going to use. Key balls had been spheres of electricity that would be thrown at exceptional speeds, or even guided in the direction of a positive goal. So we re-gambling video games, 18 commented. Feels like a laugh.
As opposed to reply, I formed small spheres of power in the hands of my arms, then I threw them both, one an awful lot harder than the opposite.
On the grounds that they were lacking in Massachusetts, the balls were not affected via the extreme gravity here, and as such they each flew a honest distance earlier than my fellow cyborg blasted them out of the air. Excellent purpose, I complimented. 18 smiled for a moment, after which she frowned. My brother and me, we used to spend our loose time down on the arcades. She informed me I used to get so mad while he beat me, so he used to let me win. At the least sometimes. 17 had been a bit of a psycho, but I discovered myself missing him. As a human he sounded decent enough. Come on, shall we maintain schooling? 18 then stated. I understood that she wanted to preserve her mind off her probably useless twin and that become pleasant with me. I formed extra balls of strength and threw them as hard as I should. My sparring companion had a touch greater hassle this time. One of the balls went a long way away for her to hit it. Which turned into wonderful given how properly we have been at making matters explode. Your turn, 18 then said. 18 could also shape sphere product of key electricity, so she quickly had something for me to blow up. On the grounds that I used to be a superior version of Cyborg, and that I were even before my upgrade, I used to be effortlessly capable of blast the balls. That is too easy, 18 then commented. Listening to that made me smile. Hey, we could kick things up a notch, I determined. I created a few greater spheres and then threw them, then I made extra so that 18 had 4 objectives to ruin. She simplest were given 3, however that changed into nonetheless very extraordinary given that she had simplest been prepared for 2. Then it changed into her flip once more. She fashioned quite lots of spheres and I was able to blast them all. Display of 18 referred to as me. In preference to insult her back in a teasing manner or shield myself verbally, I asked her a query. Are you able to hold doing that? I inquired. Deliver me lots of objectives to hit and make some circulate faster than others. She nodded at me, after which started working. Spheres flew at distinctive speeds and some even moved in surprising ways, then she made even more. I saved blasting. I failed to hit them all, however I were given sufficient to recognize that this turned into one vicinity that 18 may want to help me improve in. Come on, allow me have a flip, she then requested. Seeing that we had nearly unlimited power, we could doing this for so long as we desired, and already I ought to tell that we had been all prepared improving our goal. If we should locate other approaches to hire ourselves, then this will be time properly spent. I jumped backwards as 18 attempted to sweep my legs out from under me, then I formed a ball of key energy and I threw at her. My fellow cyborg simply batted it aside before attempting to attack me again. Naturally I dodged, but she didn't give up so easily. Her next punch I didn't even bother to dodge, instead I caught her fist with my hand, and then I grabbed her by the belt and I lifted her into the air before slamming her down into the ground. That hurt, she complained. I had a strong aversion to striking women directly, but I had no problem knocking 18 on her ass as it was very important for her to learn how to defend herself. Plus she made funny noises when she fell down and I liked her butt. Then Dante, let me grab you, I replied as the blonde woman stood up. You need to keep me on the defensive.
I had expected her to make some comment about the fact that me touching her was something we both normally enjoyed, so it came as a surprise when she moved so fast she seemed to blur and then kicked me in the face.
Ouch, I said. I felt my nose and thankfully there was no blood. Well, you've gotten a lot faster in the last 6 months, I told 18. Given that we were currently experiencing something like 50 times normal gravity, I could only imagine how speedy she would be outside of this room. Let's keep going, my girlfriend said. Maybe you can learn not to get your butt kicked by a girl. I saw no reason not to carry on with the training as her kick hadn't done much damage. Fine by me, I replied. That was when I leaped into action.
After teleporting behind my sparring partner, I tried to grab 18 by her arm, so that I could throw her, only she went with the move and rammed her elbow into my chin.
This was followed up by a kick to my knee, which hurt a lot. Thankfully for me, I was able to block her next few blows, as there were punches all aimed at my head. I waited until she stopped trying to bash my skull in, before I made my next move. That was to backflip away from her. Normally I would fly in order gain some distance, but while I could now fly around near the house, we were much further away from it than normal, so even leaping was a chore.
18 didn't give me long to prepare myself for our next round. As soon as I had stopped flipping, she was running right at me, and she was aiming a knee at my gut.
I grabbed her leg and lifted it up so she overbalanced and ended up of her back once more. If you want to have sex, you only need to ask, she told me, or do you just like seeing me on the floor? With her eyes she was hinting at me to come closer. But there was no way I was going to fall for that, because I had done that before. I knew she was trying to get me to come closer to her so that when she picked herself up I would be within easy striking distance for a kick below the belt. Maybe you re-on back because you like it, I suggested. That way you don't have to do any work. Having been ridden by 18, I knew this wasn't true. She was eager for loving in many different positions. I figured that her interest in sex might be because there wasn't much else to do in the chamber, but there was no way to be sure of that until we left. Which wouldn't be for another 6 months. So you don't want to do me right here on the floor? She asked. Given the oppressive gravity and the rapid changes in temperature we experienced his far from the house, I doubted she was really in the mood. You just want to give up because I am winning all our sessions outside of the bedroom, was my answer. That was still the one area that 18 had me beaten hands down. Not only did she have a high sex drive, she also never got tired, whereas I need time to recharge a little between sessions. Thankfully we gotten to the point where she actually wanted to cuddle after sex, and I figured that was the only reason she hadn't killed me with intimacy. Why don't you just carry me back to the house, 18 suggested, and then you can have your way with me. I had to chuckle a little upon hearing that. Come on, we only have 6 months left before we have to leave. I then said to my other half, I at least have to make the most of our time here because I can't ever come back in. That didn't seem to motivate her. I really don't want to get up, 18 confessed to me. Hearing that surprised me greatly, as she was supposed to have endless amounts of energy, and she healed well too. Are you hurt? I asked her. It took her a moment to reply. I am fine, I just don't want to keep training, she admitted. That was when I realized that while her body could keep going pretty much forever, her mind was another story. Well, we could do something else for a couple of days, I offered. I have books on meditation. We could try it out.
Oddly, I found it appealing. It had to be the piccolo part of me, as I'd never been one for seeking inner peace, or whatever it was the green guy was looking for that was inside him.
It might be nice just to hang out for a change, 18 said. How about we go for a walk and just talk? Since walking inside the chamber wasn't pleasant, I figured that her desire had be some strange woman thing. No doubt she wanted to develop our relationship or something like that. I guess I've been lacking in the romance department, I conceded. Tell you what, when we get out of here I'll take you on a few dates. While she didn't move a muscle in her body, I could tell that she felt better now as she was smiling. Take me back to the house, she then requested. I could have picked her up and carried her, but instead I just grabbed one of her feet and started dragging her. 18's response to this was to cross her arms and frown at me. If you ever want to have sex with me again, you'll pick up and carry me back to the house, she said like a man should. She looked cute, being all grumpy that I decided to let her win. I picked her up and lugged her over my shoulder, which put her yummy ass right next to my face. Okay, this is more caveman than what I had in mind, she told me, but it'll do. Now that she was somewhat happy, I increased my speed and ran towards the house, where the gravity was much lighter and the temperature was much more even. Line break. It wasn't all about sex when we were in training. Sometimes there was talking, and while what we spoke about was often of very little of importance, that was okay as a couple needed to communicate. Besides, we still needed to learn all about each other.
At the moment we were just lying on the roof of the house within the chamber, and I thought it rather odd to be nearly nude in a place like this, but we hadn't brought much in the way of the clothing with us, and 18 had insisted on doing the laundry, so we were stripped down to our underwear.
I knew 18 was unnerved by this place too. More than once I had expected to find her gone, but she had stayed by side for months now. I admired that about her. So my fellow cyborg said after a while, "What are you afraid of most?" Before I could even think of an answer, 18 turned on her side to look at me, which gave me a lovely view of her boobies, and I just had to touch her. She didn't mind me squeezing her breasts at all. Torture, I admitted. 18 raised an eyebrow. Why? Was her next question. In my view, that answer didn't need clarification. Dying doesn't bother me that much, I told 18, because you know it will come to an end no matter how bad it is. You'll stop the dying part and then be dead. But torture can drag on, and you never know if or not when it will end. Then there's the feeling of helplessness, not being able to fight back. That's the real torture. She seemed satisfied with that answer, even if it was dark. Do you remember your life before you met Jero? Was her next question.
She shifted away from me when I didn't answer right away, but as it turned out, that was just so she could roll over in order to get spooned by me.
It's okay. You don't have to answer, she then said. There wasn't much to say really. I remember a few things I told her. As it turned out, that wasn't enough of an answer. Like what? She asked while moving her butt just a little. Mostly it was dull, but I was able to think of something to tell her. You know, the normal stuff I said: school, siblings, shopping, jobs, home, video games and other stuff. 18 then decided it was her turn to give information. I remember being with my brother when we were little, she told me. My oldest memory is someone yelling at him for doing something stupid. That seemed to be usual. 17 had struck me as a troublemaker. I bet you were so super cute as a kid, I said to 18. Thankfully for me, all my baby pictures were in another reality, so she would never get to see them. Are you saying I am not cute now? My girlfriend inquired. I had to be careful about what I said next. You're the cutest thing in the world, I told 18. The most adorable of koala bears can compare to you. I could only hope that I hadn't laid it on too thick. Do you recall anything else? 18 then questioned. Given where her butt was, I really didn't care much for talking. I mostly wanted her to wiggle around. I remember some stupid things, I confessed, but there's nothing important in my head. Well, that was a lie. There was lots of stuff in my head, but nothing that mattered right now. Do you remember your name? She then asked. I mean, the one you were born with. In fact, I did. Yeah, I do, I said before telling her what it was. It wasn't a very interesting name, which was why I liked being called Gothic or even 21. What about you? I then asked. She didn't look at me when she answered. I figured she was embarrassed. Lazuli, she told me. 18 quickly asked me something else. What about your parents? She inquired. That was easy to answer and not at all painful to talk about. Nothing about my father, and plenty of good things about my mother. I informed my girlfriend I wasn't close to any member of my family. Which was a blessing really, as it meant I wasn't homesick. What about you? I asked. 18 avoided the question, my turning around and pulling my boxers off. When I saw her face, I could see she was smirking, and then I saw her hands go for my already hardening cock. She began moving her hand up and down. Then she leaned down and started flicking her tongue across the head of my dick, which caused me to moan in pleasure. You're avoiding the question, I remarked when I could focus. 18 then suddenly enveloped as much of my manhood into her mouth as she could. which of course made it impossible for her to say anything. When she began sucking me off, I stopped caring, as all I really could do was lie back and enjoy myself.
When I got close to climaxing, my girlfriend seemed to have sensed it, and she stopped the very nice thing she was doing for me.
Hey, why do you stop? I complained. I was really enjoying that. 18 grinned seductively at me, and I knew she had something wicked in mind. I'm not doing all the work, she told me. If you want to finish, you're going to have to show me how much you want it. When she stood up, I took a moment to admire her black lace bra and matching panties. She wanted some touch herself, so I immediately found her bra clip and went to work on doing it. Even for a cyborg, this wasn't an easy task, but I got it done.
Once I had the bra completely off, I began sucking and nibbling on 18's nipples, where my mouth wasn't, a hand was, and this ensured that both of her breasts got plenty of attention.
She also gave me some touch, and that kept too close to climax. Lie down, I told her. She did that, and I started fondling both of her breasts before leaving a trail of kisses down her flat tummy. When I reached her waist, I stopped kissing and attempted to remove her panties with my teeth. This took some time, but 18 seemed to find very enjoyable, as she giggled a lot. That's a tight fit, I said while gently touching 18's sweet spot. Are you sure? Can you take me?
She gave me a face that made me shut my mouth, and I figured that if I didn't get on with things, I'd ended up with nothing at all, so I lifted 18's legs up and rested them on my shoulders.
Then I positioned the head of my cock at her wet entrance and lightly pressed forward until all of the head was in. 18 stayed in eye contact as I slowly pushed in as far as I could. I then waited a moment before slowly pulling nearly all the way out before pushing back in. Soon my cyborg girlfriend was moaning loudly, and I began to move faster and faster until I found a good, steady rhythm. Since the already tugged me over with closer to release than I wanted, so I tried to slow down. Only 18 begged me to faster, which put me on edge of release, and I could only last a few more seconds. I am gonna. That was all I got to say, as I wasn't able to hold off anymore. I'll give you 10 minutes to recharge, then we're going again, 18 decided once I had rolled off her. Next I am going on top.
While I couldn't eat, sleep, or get drunk, I also didn't get that tired after sex.
I still needed a break in between orgasms, but after that I always ready to go again. Even better, 18 never had headaches, and she was never too tired. Also, she had gotten really good at getting me off. Had I still been human, I figured that she would have killed me with sex by now. We should do some training, I pointed out. Before I could properly present my argument, 18 was kissing me and I quickly gave in. Okay, fine, we can train later, I said. 18 smiled at me before she rested her head on my chest. I knew that she wasn't really sleepy, she was just enjoying being close to me. So that as for today, we will continue in next part.